up, everybody, party people? A quick forward. This is not Horizon Zero Dawn. This is You're in a Video Store. I did not change the title of the stream until after the stream had begun today, so just so you're not confused, this is not Horizon Zero Dawn. We're not playing Horizon Zero Dawn, although we have talked about buying and playing Horizon Zero Dawn.
Wait, we're not playing?
No, we're not playing. Today is You're in a Video Store. It is now slightly after 7 p.m. and you are in a video store. The online spot to hang out and talk about movies with friends for people who miss doing that. I guess as the world opens back up, you can do that again. But this community is spread out across the entire country, sometimes even in Europe. So we can't do it without very expensive plane tickets, and that's why we're here.
I mean, to be fair, though, even though the world is opening back up to some degree, not only is it harder and harder these days to find an independent video store or a space that has physical media available, also, y'all, shout out to social anxiety. Shout out to all that crap you're dealing with as you try to integrate back into society, however different it may be.
That's right. We are slowly, it's like that scene in The Matrix when Neo says, "Why do my eyes hurt?" and Morpheus says, "You've never used them before."
Yeah.
I feel like that way every time I go out into the world now. Why is this so weird?
Yeah, wires sound so loud.
Why?
And lights are bright.
Pathos said you look similar to Aloy, who I think is the hero of Horizon Zero Dawn.
Who, me?
The main character, the main Charatar.
Is it me or you?
It's you.
Oh.
It's you, not me. Here, I'll show you. I'll look it up real quick. Hey, Pathos. It's good to have you here.
Hi, Pathos.
And to Stephanie's point, yes, we're going to keep doing this. We'll always find a way. Even if every video store that went under in the country suddenly reopened and the internet failed, we'd find a way to... We would camp out at a video store and try to convince people walking in to talk about the movies they were renting with us.
Now, that's a future I can get behind.
That's right. But yeah, it's true. Video stores are a dying breed, unfortunately.
Oh, that does kind of look like me.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. That's the hero of the game.
Oh. Yeah. I see it.
We should play this game.
We should.
It's actually... What's up, Munson? Good to have you here. So, when early in quarantine, Stephanie and I played through Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2.
Oh, that was so good.
We didn't stream them. It was kind of just like a person... It was the way we were dealing with our own depression, I think.
Yeah. With
the pandemic. So it wasn't like... you gotta carve out time for things that you're not streaming and not making into, like not a job.
You don't have to monetize or gamify everything in your life.
Exactly.
Not that we make money or it's a game. It's very real.
It's very real. But no, we had, I should say, it feels weird to say beat games anymore. I feel like that's an old-fashioned lingo. After we completed the story mode of Last of Us 1 and 2 and the DLC from Last of Us, which is my personal favorite, the shopping mall story with Ellie's first love.
Oh.
It's really, I'm like sad talking about it.
Me too.
We were looking for a game that was like story-driven, because Stephanie doesn't really game.
Yeah, that's fair.
You game in the sense that you can look at a screen and you can say, explore that, that's interesting, shoot him first. Like, you strategized with me.
Yeah.
You just can't communicate that to a controller.
Oh, it's real funny if you ever see me try to...
use a game controller. It's kind of like how I am with music. Like, I can sing a little ditty, but if you put a piano in front of me and you're like, use your hands to express this ditty, I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
Because when we were playing... There would be moments where we'd, especially in Last of Us 2 with those German Shepherds, you'd be like, arrow that German Shepherd when its owner looks for it, choke them. You were like strategizing
yeah,
stuff.
But don't. But I am pretty good at Crash Team Racing, I will say.
You are getting really good at Crash Team Racing.
Yeah. That's like my toe dipping in the gaming. That's
my favorite kart racer, and you are getting really good at it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite games. I love playing that with you. Pathos says, Horizon Zero Dawn, very good. Excuse me. Never played it, but have watched several playthroughs. And Alon's been playing it. Hence why it's on our channel.
Yes, but of course.
And I promise this every week, and I should probably stop over-promising, under-delivering, but I do have a setup for retro streaming, and I do want to set aside a Thursday to do it. This Thursday night, we actually have movie tickets.
Oh my gosh. Okay, y'all, let's just get this out there. We are going to see our first movie in theaters since pre-pandemic on Thursday.
Which was February, Bad Boys 3 for me.
And it was into February, or very right before when I saw Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Those are two very good last movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to go see Existenz, Cronenberg. There's a cool little theater a friend of ours turned us on to called Brain Dead, which is also named after my favorite Peter Jackson movie, Dead Alive being the U.S. title. And they have a really cool lineup. Sometimes they do 35mm prints, not Existenz, but just, I mean, we've been talking about watching Existenz forever, and I very nearly dropped like $25 on getting a British Blu-ray of it, and then we saw it was screening. I was like, let's spend that $25 on 2 movie tickets instead.
Yeah, and I haven't seen Existenz probably in like 7 years.
I haven't seen it since I first saw it, and that would have been college, so this is one of the years for me. Oh, Munson, I'm feeling I will too.
I know. I'm like, all I want to do is step on a crunchy carpet.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That sounds so gross.
Sit down on a casting couch.
Sticky crunchy. No, y'all know exactly what I mean. I want to like walk in and like smell that like disgusting fake butter smell. I want to like be like walking on the aisle, be like your shoes like with the soda sticky.
I mean, I think I too don't just want to go back to a movie theater, but I specifically want to go back to a multiplex movie theater in the mall that from 1997.
Yeah, I want it to be too cold. I want to like get a stomach ache from too much popcorn and have to pee halfway through the movie. Actually, you know what? Scratch the last two things. I would take those on in exchange for seeing.
Can I tell you a little TMI story?
Yeah.
About the bathroom in movies. When I saw Pirates of the Caribbean 3 at World's End in theater. Now, I love the Pirates of the Caribbean original trilogy. I don't much care for the sequels or the post-trilogy entries. But the original 3, the like Elizabeth Swann, William Turner saga, I kind of eat it up. I love it. I love how twisty it is. But if you've seen them, you know that the third movie in particular, and this was the biggest criticism levied against it, is pretty hard to follow. The twists and turns and character motivations and backstabbing are kind of constant and all over the place, and you really have to like...
It's a lot.
It's a lot, especially for a like huge like tentpole blockbuster release to expect that from a massive blockbuster audience.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, too late. I got me a big old bucket of very buttered up, very salty popcorn on an empty stomach and went and saw that and ate like half the bucket. Got the worst stomach ache and had to run to the bathroom for an emergency and missed maybe 7 minutes of the movie. And I came back and I didn't know what. Not until I watched it.
You're watching a different movie at that point.
Exactly.
You're just hitting the start over button.
Pathos says that the fake butter smells a thing called Flavacol. Doesn't surprise me. That sounds very much like a 50s era portmanteau word. Like, doesn't it sound like you could just see like Flavacol?
Yeah.
Put
like
it in your butter today.
And color.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It's gotta be.
It's gotta be.
Because it is like that golden, yellowy, like marigold color.
This very much sounds like an Atomic Age brand. And you know, the just a fun little movie fact. I'm sure maybe everyone watching knows this, but William Castle, the low-budget horror provocateur who gave us such hits as House on Haunted Hill and The Tingler, and House of Wax, he used to, during some of his screenings at movie theaters, or maybe it was just movie theaters in general, I could be wrong. I associate it with him because he's known for his gimmicks. Anyway, they used to pump that smell into the theater so that people would go get popcorn. They used to like have a hose from the popcorn machine into the theater on purpose.
Man. I can't wait.
And Pathos, just to go back, said that the last movie he saw in theaters was Endgame, which is quite the... Isn't it? I remember...
That was the last one we saw together.
It's true. And that was 2019.
Yeah.
And it's so, like, time has become so strange. I was actually just thinking about this last night, just to become a therapy session for a second. I think since quarantine, and since we're in LA, I personally have been struggling with a sense of feeling like I'm starting all over, just this imposter syndrome, all that crap. But last night as I was falling asleep, I was like, it wasn't so long ago that we were both playing a show every night, and when we were completing our show to move out here, we were full of, like, vim and vigor, and we're going to do it, and it's going to be fine. And it was really 2020 that took all the wind out of the sails.
I mean...
But taking that and extrapolating it to movie going, 2019 was the end of the Star Wars, the end of a 40-year run for Star Wars saga, end of an 11-year run and 23 movies for Marvel, and end of a 10-year run for Game of Thrones. 2019 was this massive year of endings to epic stories that had all happened over the course of decades. And it felt like such a crazy thing to have all those stories wrapping up at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's really weird looking back that, like, they all wrapped up right before 2020.
Yeah, it is weird. And then 2020 swooped in and said, "Do you want a story? Boy, have I got a story for you."
2020 said, "Okay, thanks for finishing Star Wars. Status quo reset now." Any whoozle, what's it? We're really excited to see a movie in theaters. This conversation started because I said I want to stream retro games. I overpromise. I'm not going to say I'll do it next week, but I'm going to aim for it. Thursday night, I honestly just got to pick a game. I'm thinking about Parasite Eve 2, maybe. I just picked that up like a few months ago. Haven't started it yet. Big fan of the first one. I'm thinking maybe an RPG or maybe some sort of... I might try to replay through Castlevania Symphony of the Night, because that was really, really, really fun when I did it the first time, and I've only beat it once.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hey!
What up, Chief Doomsday? We don't talk about 2020 around these parts. Yeah, you're right. We should move on. It's good to have you here, Chief. Chief Doomsday is... I don't even know where to start on introducing you. It's really awesome to have you here. This is... I'm going to be on Chief Doomsday's live show, Weird Rap Discussion Gang, on Thursday. Right before we see Existence.
Yeah.
That's what I was just saying before this. We were planning out our week.
Sorry, I was reading Pathos's comment.
Oh, yeah. What is a man? A miserable pile of secrets. That's the first... That's one of Dracula's famous lines from the beginning of this game. That's a good line. Such good writing. Chief Doomsday runs a great blog called Doom on Film, hosts a podcast / live stream called Weird Rap Discussion Gang that I'm going to get to be on Thursday. Is a rapper, producer, just had a really great blog write-up. I'm forgetting the source of it, but I just saw on Instagram earlier, got a really good spotlight, and runs an incredible Texas hip-hop blog as well. Chief's been at it for, Chief is an OG who's been at it for a long time, who is a film lover, music lover, all-around amazing person. So, Chief, feel free to drop your links. We're a pretty supportive community around here, so if you want anyone to follow you, or just, click that username and go follow Chief's profile as well. Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, thanks to you. Yeah. And yeah, I'm happy that we're here too. It's weird. We were just saying the other day, it's very weird coming out of quarantine and seeing all of our friends back home being able to start play shows and see each other again.
Yeah.
And it's weird that we moved during the pandemic, because now we're excited to be here, but we don't know anybody. We're starting fresh, but
yeah. I'm seeing all the old shows I used to hop on regularly, and groups I used to play with, and just, oh boy.
Well, as soon as you're able to come out here, Chief, we'll find a way to collaborate in some way, because I would love to physically hang out, cipher, create something.
I agree. If anyone is ever in LA, let's grab a drink.
Absolutely.
Get some coffee. Go for a walk.
Multiple things. Those are the three things you can do in LA. We can go see movies now. Excuse me. I feel like I always burp in the first act of the show. It's like how we know we're talking.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's getting the diaphragm warmed up.
You do have to come visit, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been trying to plan some sort of a tour. My goal is to... We moved out here with a sitcom project. Our goal this week is to get that into a packaged thing that's ready to pitch, so that July is a music month. So I know that we're going to see each other Thursday anyway, but I am going to hit you up about music stuff in July, because that's what I'm trying to make it about this summer. And Pathos, yes, you can DM links to Pathos. We don't know why, but it blocks out links. But if you want to share anything, please feel free.
Yeah. I'm going to pop out of the frame for 2 seconds, grab a little caffeine, and pop back in.
Will you bring me some caffeine?
Yeah, we just want to share?
Yes.
Let's just share.
Let's do it.
Share is great.
By the way, I'm one of your 2 hosts. I don't think we introduced ourselves, but I'm Protextor. Boom, timed it really well with that. Did not mean to. And Flock of Schmeagles.
Flock of Schmeagles on Instagram. If you ever see me hanging out in the chat, I am DJ Stephanie Michelle. My name is Stephanie. I am your co-host.
You can also check out archival episodes at youtube.com/babylion and follow us on Twitter at YouAreInAVideo and Instagram at YouAreInAVideoStore. And typically the way this stream goes is we break it down into 3 sections. The first section, and these generally go for 45 minutes each, give or take. First section is the most amorphous, no rules. It's called What Did You Watch? We very much want you to imagine that you are hanging out, leaning on the counter, maybe eating a Butterfinger, talking to your friends and the clerks of the store about the movies you watched, what you liked, what you didn't like. We like to play a game where we try to pitch double features for everything.
Or reverse double features.
Or that. Second part of the show is called New Arrivals. That is generally what did we get. Now, I'm going to be real with y'all. When I had a full-time job and we were in quarantine and not going out.
Robust.
It was robust. I had quit smoking. Well, I still quit smoking, but the money now, you know what I mean. Yeah. When you're in pandemic and you're no longer buying cigarettes or going out to the bar and you have a full-time job, you find that, you can buy more movies than you could before. And I did. A lot. Now, we are here, and that is no longer the case. And so the New Arrivals section is generally a little bit more humble, but I think we have some fun stuff. Some pre-orders came through that I'm excited about. We'll talk about those. Generally an unboxing section. And then part 3 is Movie Club. And Movie Club is where we talk about a movie we all decide to watch together. And it's like a book club, but with a movie.
Yeah, and recently, I guess, actually, I feel like for the most part, we tend to kind of have a theme for the month. Sometimes we sort of pop around the map, but we have been doing some really fun deep dives. This month, we've been concentrating on queer cinema, and this week's movie club pick was Desert Hearts, 1985. It was a really fun watch, and I'm excited to talk about it later.
Me too. I'd never seen or heard about this. And it's so weird because it popped up after we watched But I'm a Cheerleader. It was recommended to us on Prime.
Suggested.
But then, once we looked it up, we're like, oh, this is in the Criterion Collection.
Yeah, and I had never heard of it.
Yeah. Although Criterion now has, 1,200 movies. So,
yeah.
Yes, and I'm seeing, by the way, you see us look over here. That's you. That's the chat. This is our monitor.
I'm just staring out the window longingly. I don't know
closed.
about y'all.
But yeah, go ahead and check out those links. Y'all, Chief and the Doomsday Device is going to be more of a music-centered blog, and doomonfilm.tumblr is the film blog. This is Chief is one of the few people who I'm I feel like is a real kindred spirit in the sense that we both love to make kind of experimental hip-hop and are super omnivorous about movies. So if you like this show, you're going to like his content, is my point.
Love that.
So, yeah, let's get into What Did You Watch? As always, the only real rules of the store are the rules of a real video store. Don't be a dick to each other. Try not to judge things you haven't seen. And try not to shame someone for having not seen something or for their opinion. Other than that, discussion is discussion. And we love you to be active in the chat. So, you don't have to be. Feel free to lurk. But if you saw a movie this week, saw multiple, you want to list them. A lot of our regulars will straight up list everything they watched, and we'll talk about them one by one. That we'll tell you what we watched. And feel free to offer recommendations or opinions.
Yeah, and I love this part of the show because almost every week there's a movie that I either haven't heard of or haven't thought about in a million years. And it's always fun to be like, whoa, what'd you think? What's that about? Put it on the list,
That also reminds me, put it on the list, reminds me of, I for the longest, put it on the pizza. For the longest time, put off getting a letterboxd.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know why. I think, actually, I do know why. It's because I didn't want the thing I love the most, which is watching movies, to get conflated with social media. But I think I found a nice way to use it, and I'm primarily going to use it for this stream. So, If you follow me on Letterboxd, it's also at Protextor. That's because I already had an account and I don't want to go to Pro yet to change the name, but maybe I will change it to You're in a Video Store. But it's for me, but it's also for this. So there's lists of... I have lists up of every staff pick that we've ever had. Mm-hmm. I have a list up of every movie club pick we've ever had. Amazing. And we have our own private watch list of things you recommend. So if you recommend stuff, I'm going to start a list on there that is basically patron recommended movies from the video store stream. Ooh. So if you, like in the past, we've toyed with having community picks. If you're like, hey, watch this, we'll add it and we'll try to watch it. And that's just Protextor on Letterboxd.
You know, these two conversations have me thinking a really fun prompt. Maybe not for today, maybe if it happens organically, whatever. But it could be fun to, as the world opens back up and people start going back into theaters and speaking of recommendations and sort of being omnivorous, what is your favorite movie that takes place in a theater or is centered around a theater?
That's a great question. Can we start there?
Yeah,
okay.
I'd love to.
Okay, let's just start there. What's your favorite? This is the other thing we like to do during this section is pitch double features or reverse double features, or ask very specific questions.
It's just fun.
It is fun. Prompts are fun, and we're not just doing it on our socials to try and get comments to get algorithm love. What's your favorite movie that takes place in a theater? Man, does the whole thing have to take place in a theater? Or just a significant portion, or just a scene?
I would say it's centered around a theater.
Okay.
Like I'm thinking like Demons, Popcorn. Or those the two you were gonna say?
Yeah, but what else?
I'm like
Cinema Paradiso, I suppose. Now, could you count something like Inglourious Bastards, which has like a third of its movie is in a theater?
I think so.
Demons and Popcorn are definitely the two that came to mind for me.
Me too.
However, I will submit, if we can bend it to be about stage theater, Stage Fright.
Ooh, that's very good. That was one of my staff picks, like a few weeks ago.
Stage Fright. There's a newer Stage Fright from 2017. I don't know if there's a relation there, but we're talking specifically about 1987, also known as Aquarius. Also known, I think, as the Owl Killings or something silly like that. Really great chamber piece. It's about a bunch of 80s punk experimental ballet theater nerds who are staging a weird, sexually violent modern ballet, and they end up locked in their theater overnight with an escaped mental patient who picks them off while wearing their the giant owl head from their ballet. It's directed by the guy who made The Church, produced by Argento. Really great piece of like late 80s punk giallo. Okay,
we have some great stuff popping up in the chat.
We do.
First of all, before we scroll back up to the top, I just want to say perfect example of what I was talking about.
Birdman.
Haven't thought about Last Action Hero in so long.
I haven't seen Last Action Hero.
I probably saw it at least 10 times.
I'm going to get like a what? Yeah, I'd count Black Swan, and actually...
Birdman, yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and really quickly hop on Letterboxd and start this list of... let's see here. Video store recommended. And I'm just going to add something I'll do in here because these are ones that I need to see. Last Action Hero. I'm saying it like I've never heard of it. I forgot that was John McTiernan.
I wanted to be in that movie.
Scary movie. That's good. The Proposal in a Bit.
I think that's in reference to maybe what?
It is. Okay, cool. I'm going to save this. I'm going to keep this out. But let's get everyone's answers. Pathos says Inglourious Bastards. Chief says Cinema Paradiso, Last Action Hero. Love that. If theater counts, Opening Night by Cassavetes, which I think we have.
Ooh, I have not seen that.
Is that back here? Might not be in this box set. Oh, it is. We should watch that. The Cassavetes box set I haven't watched all the way through. And Birdman. I love Birdman.
Oh, me too.
Actually, speaking of Letterboxd, I was just adding some old top 30 of the decade lists I made for the aughts and the teens to Letterboxd, and I forgot that Birdman was like my number 29 for the teens.
Oh, nice.
Love that movie.
Yeah, it's great.
And then Munson says Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That didn't really occur to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that counts, yeah.
Most of Sharon's arc in that movie takes place in that theater.
Yeah. And hey, Wedge, welcome to the chat.
And the Blob 88.
The question is, what's your favorite movie that is centered around or takes place in a theater?
Birdman was your number one for the decade. That's incredible. I mean, it cracked my top 30. I truly do love that movie. I think that's one of the movies that I watched like 2 or 3 times in a week. I can remember around that same era, I forget what I was doing, but I remember getting very obsessed with that and Gone Girl. I think I watched both around 3 or 4 times, right? Like every night.
Man. Oh.
What up, Wedge? That's
Gone
awesome.
Girl was probably the most satisfying, like, book to movie adaptation for me.
That you've
personally.
experienced?
Yeah. Like, reading the book and then watching the movie.
I love that Munson's for a scary movie, by the way.
Yeah.
And Wedge, thank you for coming in. Yes, and that's the cue. Well, that was a good question, Steph. I suppose my answer would be stage fright.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, if theater. If movie theater, I would say I think I like popcorn more than Demons.
I was about to say popcorn takes the cake over Demons for me, even though I think Demons is great and very cool. Popcorn is just like so fun.
Have you ever? We have these little plastic protectors for some of the old tapes, and it makes it there. It keeps them from getting banged up, but boy, does it make it hard to. There we go. If you've never seen Popcorn, it's super fun. It's about a repertory theater that's doing a tribute to this old horror filmmaker stuff. Turns out that old horror filmmaker is like a demon worshiper who's imbued all of his movies to like kill people as they watch them. And so
Classic.
It's fun. It's honestly a lot like a William Castle. It feels like a William Castle tribute, in the sense that William Castle used to like I was talking about him earlier, pumping this popcorn smell into the theater, or the tingler when they made the seats vibrate.
Mm-hmm.
But he also would do things like for House on Haunted Hill, when the skeleton comes up in the vat of acid in that movie, like he would have a skeleton like in the rafters on a rope that would drop and hang in front of the audience. And that's what Popcorn is. It's like, what if all of William Castle's gags actually killed people?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So fun.
Fun stuff.
Okay, let's see what's going on with What Did You Watch? If you are just joining us in the chat, we are in the What Did You Watch section. Please feel free. This is a very interactive show. To drop in the chat what you watched this week.
Mm-hmm.
And then organically we'll talk about double features, recommendations, and all sorts of fun stuff.
And we already have some. I'll scroll back up and get to them. Ooh, you're right, Chief. Actually, that's a big recommendation right there. Phantom of the Paradise. This is Brian De Palma's Phantom of the Opera. It's glam rock. Paul Williams, who
What?
some of you may know is the man who composed the Muppet movie, every song for the Muppet movie.
How have we not watched this?
Oh, that's
together?
it. It's one of my favorite movies. I just bought it when I went on my Shout Factory run last year, and we never watched it. I just kind of was like,
Oh.
I think I was just like, glad I have this on Blu-ray.
That looks scary.
It's good.
That's the...
Yeah, that looks a lot like, by the way, I don't know if y'all watched Army of the Dead,
see that.
but the lead guys, there's a better illustration of it on the front.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
The lead guy, the lead zombie, the king zombie, Zeus from Army of the Dead's mask, looks almost identical to this. And I just really want to quickly say, Wedge, Gremlins, and Chief Gremlins 2, yes, they both have incredible theater scenes. I would say Gremlins 2 has my preferred theater scene because while Gremlins, obviously, them all being blown up while watching Snow White is wonderful, and Inglourious Bastards of Gremlins, Gremlins 2 is really interesting because Gremlins 2 has a scene where the Gremlins fuck up the projector, and it breaks the fourth wall, and then you go into the movie theater where you're watching the movie, and Hulk Hogan stands and yells at the Gremlins in the booth to get their shit together, or he'll come up there and release the Hulkster.
Super fun. And
they get the movie started. The really fun thing about that is the VHS release of Gremlins 2 does not include that scene. It is replaced instead with a simulation of a VHS tape glitching out and going back to basic cable, or a John Wayne movie, and then John Wayne shoots the gremlins instead and brings you back to the movie. So I was too young to have seen Gremlins 2 in theater, so I grew up watching it on tape. It wasn't until I upgraded to the DVD in high school and rewatched it that I was like, oh my god, they shot an entirely new scene to make the fourth wall accurate to where you were watching it.
Gotta love that attention to detail.
Joe Dante, man. Joe Dante's the king. Okay, let's look at what people watched. Sorry, I just had to say, it's one of my favorite movie details.
No, I love it. It's great.
If you go to my Letterboxd, as I'm telling you to, you will see there's a little section for favorite films. You will see that the number one slot is Gremlins 2 for me right now. Mm-hmm. Best movie ever made. Okay.
That's great.
Cool. So, Chief watched Kaneda, which is Yorgos Lanthimos. Now, I am criminally underseen on Yorgos' movies. He did Dogtooth, The Favorite. Mm-hmm. Have you seen any of these?
No, I hate to say that that's a no for me. I feel like Dogtooth and The Favorite have been on my watch list for a while. I've never heard of Kaneda. I don't know what it's about. Mm-hmm. To be honest,
Kaneda says 2005. Is that? I'm adding it to the list right now. I'm also going to add on The Favorite. But now, is that his first movie since 2005? Is that his debut? And The Proposal with Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds, I would watch that. Like, just to see those two together, I would want to watch that.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm trying to place this movie, and it's funny because I feel like with those two stars, it could either be an action film or a rom-com based on the name and the two leads. I'm assuming it's like, I think it's like an action comedy.
I don't know anything about it. You know, that makes me think, though, isn't it? It is pretty cool that Sandra Bullock, like, can effortlessly... We don't give her enough credit for her ability to effortlessly jump into an action movie.
She's great.
You know?
She's great.
She often gets thought... I often think of Sandra Bullock as rom-com. But I think that's just because of my age and the things I saw on the video store shelf growing up.
Yeah.
Then again,
6
Speed.
weeks notice or whatever.
Yeah.
But y'all, Miss Congeniality is...
And she says it was his debut, and it was a rom-com, a rec from a friend at work. Was it, did you like it? Like,
it's his debut!
Well, Yorgos' debut. Kaneda. Yeah, maybe we'll just do a little bit of a Yorgos run here after we finish June.
Yeah.
We've been trying to watch as many queer movies this month. Although, maybe Yorgos has a queer movie that I'm unaware of. The Proposal. He says it is a rom-com. Let's look up I feel like I can see the poster for this in my head.
I know. Are they like back to back? Like
2009. They are.
Silly. Are they really?
No, they're almost.
Oh yes. This was okay. The only reason I say that is because this era of movies is always the two leads either facing each other, doing like, "Don't be crazy," or this back to back. Don't be crazy.
You're right.
On a white background.
Oh my god.
And it's always like the female stars like on an apple box, like like Reese Witherspoon or something.
You have to like, if you go into a real video store and you want to like look through the comedy movies, the comedy section of things that were released in the aughts, you need sunglasses. It's like those are going to be some white spines, white boxes. Like even you have a rom-com VHS section in the other room, and in comparison to like the horror section here, which is all blacks and reds, it's just like white spines. And then okay, and then she also watched Loki and the first few episodes of the new iCarly, and then Pathos also watched the new Loki. Watched Monster Brawl and The Client. I don't know what Monster Brawl is. I'm going to look it up. Now, we watched Loki.
We did. I think we talked about the premiere last week.
So we've watched 2 episodes now. What do you thought, Boo?
I mean...
You okay?
Yeah!
I'm really sorry. I forgot these tapes were...
Are you okay, Ghoulies?
I hope Ghoulies is okay.
Jeez.
It'll survive. It's a tape. I was trying to grab this, My apologies. Okay, go on.
I was just gonna say, okay, first of all, I think we are loving the chemistry with Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
Loving that. I think the consensus last week was like getting into it, we're getting our feet wet. Lots of fun chemistry. Kind of like enjoying the setup. Excited to see where it goes.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly, exceptionally watchable.
Yes. I really love it. It feels like Marvel's trying to do, I said this last week, but it feels like Marvel's doing its Doctor Who moment. Like high concept sci-fi ideas. Also, this is probably a spoiler. I'll say it without spoiling it. The reveal at the end of the last episode of Loki, and I'm talking about episode 2. I think a new episode comes out at midnight tonight, Pacific time. But the reveal at the end of the episode 2 opens things up for, well, this isn't a spoiler. If you watched WandaVision, you know this is already opening up for a multiverse. Because we saw well, if you've seen even the first episode, you've already seen the different versions of Loki. And I don't want to say too much at this point.
Yeah.
But we'll say in the comics a few years ago, they recast Thor as a woman, and there is some whispering that Natalie Portman is going to be taking up the mantle of Thor in Love and Thunder, and that is what's happening as the multiverse converges.
I think that's fairly well-known information.
And I think Loki is clearly walking us towards that.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, I'm a big MCU fan, unapologetically, and I think that it's really very impressive how every piece of storytelling they do is able to be self-contained and satisfying while also continually walking forwards, because it is exactly why people like comics, or it's Cape Comics. And yeah, I'm eating this show up too.
Yeah.
And Owen Wilson's I really just love Owen Wilson. I just want him to be a happy person.
Yeah.
I hope he's I'm sure he's a good dude.
I was listening to an interview with Luke Wilson actually yesterday, and I was like, man, and he was talking all about Bottle Rocket and how they got into film and how they just wanted to be filmmakers, and nobody wanted the Wilson brothers to be in the movie when it got greenlit because they didn't look right or whatever. And I'm just like, there are some good there's some good stories, some good people out there, like, I hope.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find Owen Wilson incredibly charming and just deeply likable.
Yeah, and so is Tom Hiddleston.
Well, I mean,
Babe.
I think we all know how I feel about Tom Hiddleston, especially in the Loki get-up.
Yeah, bad boy. And now he's a bad boy with a heart, and maybe you can fix him.
Yeah, you know what? I'll take it on. Please.
And just to cycle through, sometimes we miss stuff on the chat as we're going through, but Chief said felt like they put the cuffs on the Prav a bit, I think, for the proposal. Which makes sense, because both those actors have such good comedic timing that if you're going to make them stick word perfect to the script, you should have a perfect script. Pathos loves Owen Wilson as Mobius, and his fine Asgardian leather.
Yes.
I'm also secretly hoping we get a Thor cameo as well. And then the client. First of all, love Susan Sarandon. Second of all, Susan Sarandon is kind of like an all-time sex icon for me, I will say.
Oh.
I'm very attracted to Susan Sarandon. Always have been. Yeah.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite Susan Sarandon moment? Like.
Well, Speed Racer. She actually makes me tear up in Speed Racer every single time when she's giving her pep talk to Speed. I love that's like Susan Sarandon in a mom role that I love her in, a Speed Racer. Susan Sarandon as like a PYT is just Rocky Horror.
Yeah.
It's hot.
Yeah. That'll do it.
That'll do it. But I think my favorite Susan Sarandon is 90s Susan Sarandon. And I will say The Client I've never seen, but weirdly I just added shit like The Pelican Brief and The Firm to my watch list.
Yeah.
I missed like all those John Grisham adaptations from the 90s. Rainmaker, which is Francis Ford Coppola, by the way, did Rainmaker.
Really?
Yeah. He also did Jack. He's got a weird career, that guy.
Yeah.
But The Client, The Rainmaker, the other ones, I never saw it. Pelican Brief, I never saw any of them because
you could probably just say anything.
The Grishams.
The brief, the file, the manila folder.
The Special Brief by John Grisham.
The
Seagull's Briefs. I never saw any of them. Did you watch those in the 90s?
Yeah, I did. I watched them probably once and probably when I was too young to understand them.
Yeah. I think that if my parents rented them, it wasn't something I was demanding to be let in on.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, just like oftentimes the like kind of solid but not exceptional dramas that maybe history won't remember as one of the greatest movies of all time, but it's solid, it's good.
Yeah.
If those come out when you're like 8 or 9, it might take you decades to watch them.
Yeah. And
I think that's the case with me. But weirdly, I'm also on this tip where I want to go watch all of them now.
Yeah.
Feels like 90s comfort food.
Oh, love
that. Okay. Scrolling on down, catching up. We got some movie theater movies here.
Oh, yes.
Gremlins 2, Phantom of the Paradise. Okay. Here are some new. Okay, and Wedge is co-signing and saying, "Oh, what up, Holdenwook? What up? Good to have you here."
Hey.
Wedge is co-signing the, I think, concept of just like the movies that are just there that you forget about.
Yeah.
And The Rainmaker's really good. I really want to watch The Rainmaker, and I believe it's good. It's Coppola. I also really quickly wanted to say, someone said they watched Monster Brawl. Mm-hmm. So I thought this might be a fun double feature with Monster Brawl.
Oh, that's fun.
It's called Arena, and it is basically like WrestleMania with monsters.
Yeah.
Man
versus monster.
Yeah, I think we should watch this.
I was trying to do it.
Man.
I can't.
Let's hear your trailer voice here.
In a world where man versus monster, tonight we take you to the arena.
That was hard. It's hard to speak that low when I naturally want to go like this.
Tonight.
Oh, see, that's already better.
Tonight, championship grudge match. The trailer voice is like, in a world.
I know.
In a world where man versus monster, only one monster can show he's man enough to defeat a man who's not a monster.
Oh, that's good.
But then if you want to make it boxing, it's, I can only do the R. Are you ready to rumble? It's really loud. I need to be really loud. Okay. I've never seen a single episode of iCarly. How's the reboot, Chief? Let us know. While you're letting us know that, let's talk about In the Heights, which we have not watched yet, but Munson watched Samurai Jack at home. Is there a Samurai Jack movie that just came out that I missed? I need to watch that series. In the Heights, in theaters. Was it your first movie back in the theaters? I think maybe you told us you went and saw one last week, and I'm forgetting.
I think so.
No, let me see if I can remember what it was. Was it Spiral? Maybe? Anyway, how was In the Heights? Haven't seen it yet. We still haven't watched Hamilton. Jesus. I'm going to add both of those to our list.
We had the whole pandemic to watch Hamilton and didn't get around to it.
We're just bad movie watchers. We're like, should we watch the new movie that everyone's talking about so we can bond with people on the stream? Or should we watch this experimental movie from 1979 that 3 people know about that's 72 minutes long about a rabbit named George? I just made that up.
Yeah, let us know how In the Heights was. I'm very curious. It looks really fun.
I have a weird, like, just to put it out there as, like, just a giant... When I see that many... I've seen the trailer, and just to see that many people dancing in the streets in that way, it just reminds me of West Side Story. So, is that comparison, you think, something In the Heights is wanting? Is it trying to be... do you think Lin-Manuel Miranda is trying to take the West Side Story and update it and make it more representative? or is it completely its own thing? I really know very little about this.
Yeah.
All I know
same.
is it's a 3-hour musical where a bunch of people are from top-down shots doing complicated musical numbers in city streets, and there's only one musical I know that looks like that.
Yeah.
And it's called West Side Story, which is also getting a remake.
Oh, it was Spiral. There you go.
Spiral, nice.
Good memory.
Good memory. It's not gone yet. I thought you were starting to sing Cats, and I was like, we do not need to bring that into this. Been a long time since I watched The Client. Forgot it was a roller coaster. Well, this sounds exciting.
Ooh, yeah. See, I love a good twisty-turny, loopy-doopy.
And Chief said really enjoyed In the Heights, and Munson says really well done. Super impressed with the choreo, the musical numbers. Felt a tad long, but he was hooked. Chief Doomsday, it would have been nice if Hamilton got that treatment, and Spielberg is handling the West Side Story thing. Yes. Which the girl who plays Maria in West Side Story, in Spielberg's West Side Story, just got cast as Snow White in a live-action reboot of Snow White.
Oh.
Honestly, I'm a little surprised that Snow White is getting the live-action treatment.
Yeah.
One, because it's very well known that it's a rotoscoped movie, so the original Snow White almost is live-action too.
Yeah.
Because of the early animation technique. But yeah, I guess that's really it. But also just because I don't think of Snow White as an IP that's super popular.
Yeah.
No one's favorite Disney movie is Snow White.
I'm curious.
It's an incredible movie, but
Yeah.
and historic, and
Yeah.
can I tell you honestly the number one piece of movie memorabilia that I want to own?
Yeah.
There's a store in Austin, Texas. Now I don't know if they still have this, but there's a movie poster store called Art. They used to be Art on 5th. They moved. They're now on South Lamar. And we got a print from Fantasia from them, which is in a box. But they have, for $32,000, the last time I was there, it is a 1935 Snow White poster that's original, and it's hand-drawn, but they hadn't finished animating the film yet. So the dwarves in Snow White do not look like they do in the movie.
Yeah. I remember that.
Ugh.
I remember you being like, oh, okay, and me saying, no.
I don't have $32,000 to say no to.
I know, exactly.
It's not even like it would be an irresponsible purchase. It would be an impossible purchase.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm sorry. I interrupted you. You were saying you're curious as to Snow White, how they're...
Snow White will have 7 million.
That's how they're going to handle it.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, I'm curious to see, like, if, as things like Snow White and potentially things like Sleeping Beauty and stuff get remade, like, how they will pivot those classic stories to, be less... I guess I'm thinking specifically about, like, Sleeping Beauty, how much people have been all about, like, calling out the story of Sleeping Beauty recently.
You just mean because she's sleeping and a bunch of people kiss her?
She's sleeping, a bunch of people kiss her, and it's like, she's asleep until a man kisses her and, like, breaks the spell and, brings her to life. And
yeah, I mean, I want to quickly say, I don't count The Fugitive in that list because it's explicitly an action movie, whereas I think of the others as courtroom dramas. Mm-hmm. It's also not Grisham, but I do love that movie.
But it's a great movie.
Fugitive I've watched several times, including as a kid.
Same.
God, I love that movie. It's so good.
It's really good.
But to your point, Steph,
yeah.
I mean, with Snow White, I'm more curious, like, the concept of dwarves is kind of played out, obviously problematic. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious what they're going to do with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Now, the Sleeping Beauty paradox. Mm-hmm. It's not paradox, I don't know why I said that. I don't know.
It sounded academic.
It did. It sounded like a sci-fi movie. I mean, there is actually a movie called Sleeping Beauty, I think from a few years ago, that's like a very intense, like, sex trafficking drama.
Oh.
About that. Where it takes, like, Sleeping Beauty to its logical conclusion. The thing with Sleeping Beauty is I'm not sure, are they doing a live-action adaptation?
I don't know, and to be honest, I don't, like, have any insight or,
I think they skirted it.
Opinions. I'm just curious if...
I think they skirted it by doing Maleficent.
Yes.
Because Maleficent is explicitly about content warning. Maleficent is explicitly about the trauma of date rape.
Right.
Which I think I mentioned a few streams ago. I watched it with a 9-year-old girl who had
That's
questions
right.
I didn't know if I could answer after the movie was over.
Yeah.
She asked in Maleficent, Angelina Jolie's Maleficent falls in love with a young man who's royalty who gives her a potion, knocks her out, and while she's asleep, he cuts off her wings.
Oh.
To steal her magic.
Oh, wow.
Which is this
Okay.
very heavy metaphor.
Yeah.
And I saw it with a 9-year-old girl, very smart, very cool little girl. And after the movie was over, she was like, "Why didn't you just go tell the king and get him punished?" And I was like, "Ooh, I cannot explain systemic sexism to you right now." But I think that's how they get around it, is they did that instead of Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
And it's, at a certain point, you want to throw your hands up and say, it's a fairy tale. The point is that she's doomed unless she finds a man's love, which is here's what I would do if I was remaking Sleeping Beauty. I would take the fact that Maleficent curses her to be sleeping until she finds a man's love, and just slightly rework that to make it a metaphor about societal pressure, about how you're nobody until a man loves you, and rebuking that. I think that's what you do with that story. Now, as far as the sleeping part, I don't know. Open up the writer's room for that.
Open it up.
Fugitive does rock.
Hey, baby.
It rocks hard.
Oh, no.
Baby June. Hi, our dog is... Sometimes I feel like people think we're making up our animals because they never come onto the camera. Just slightly.
Sometimes the
Here,
cat
let's see if we can get a
does,
little
and we
nose.
get a nice
There's her little nose.
all caps cat.
Fugitive does rock. It rocks hard.
It does rock hard.
What else did y'all watch? Anything else?
It does rock. Yes, if you're just joining us, we are in the What Did You Watch portion of our show, where we just drop in the chat what you watched this week. We let you know what we watched and kind of see freeform where those lists lead, whether that's suggestions or side conversations or whatever. Also, a fun little question prompt that I threw out today is, what is your favorite movie that takes place in or is centered around a theater?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're talking about going back to see movies in theater again. So yeah, we've had some. If you scroll up in the chat, you might be able to catch a few of them. We've talked about Popcorn, Demons, Cinema Paradiso, Last Action Hero. Was a one that we were like, oh yeah. Inglourious Bastards. Mm-hmm. When I saw Inglourious Bastards in theater, now here's a fun theatrical experience. They did this at Alamo Drafthouse Ritz in Austin, downtown Austin, because Tarantino was in town and they wanted to, I think, do something fun for him. But they left it up for the first week of screenings there. And so when I went and saw Inglourious Bastards in theater, it was my second time seeing it. When the camera tracks into the movie theater at the end of in the third act of the movie, and they're in the movie theater filled with all the entire Nazi leadership, me and my date heard this click, 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 click loudly in the theaters, and what that was Nazi banners unfurling throughout the theater. The Alamo Drafthouse made the theater you were watching it in be the same theater that burns in the movie. And while maybe having a bunch of Nazi flags on hand is a bit strange, it was a pretty incredible immersive gimmick. And it was pretty fun moment.
I love immersive.
Would The Shape of Water count as a theater film? I don't know if I remember it well enough.
I'm trying to think of where there's a theater in that movie. Is it in the basement of it?
Maybe. I honestly only saw it once.
I saw it in theaters. Saw it in theaters.
Now I'm thinking of, if that counts, Leon the Professional, when he goes and watches Singing in the Rain, all the movies he watches. But yeah, if you have one, let us know.
Holdenwook, I'm curious what y'all thought about Wild. I haven't seen that movie in forever. I do know that is Reese Witherspoon's first feature that she made with her production company that she started. She had, optioned out the rights to that book and cast herself as the lead because she was sick of playing in rom-coms and wanted more challenging roles for not only herself but for other women in film, and wanted to create more diverse and female-centered movies. So, curious what you thought about that. I only saw it in theaters. I remember really enjoying the narrative, and really being impressed with her performance, but I can't remember the movie very well. I just remember the moment where she throws her shoe. I'm sure y'all remember that.
George Bush? I remember that too. Sorry. I don't remember. I never saw Wild. Curious what Holden Wook thinks in 2021. That came out, 6 or 7 years ago?
That sounds about right.
My ex read the book, and then it got optioned, and she was very much into, like, Reese Witherspoon is trying to... Exactly what you just said. And so, like, in our household, I guess I was being an unsupportive boyfriend, because I didn't read the book or watch the movie. But I remember her being very into it.
It's about a woman who is in a bad... Well, if I remember correctly, it's about a woman who's in a bad relationship, kind of a crumbling marriage. She's dealing with alcoholism and some, like, trauma, long-term effects of trauma and things like that. And she goes to hike something. I can't remember.
Gets lost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a very challenging hike that she should not have gone on without proper training and preparation, but is like, fuck it, I'm
Does
doing
she survive? Or is it like...
She survives.
So that would be a good double feature with either Into the Wild or 127 Hours.
Yeah.
Which kind of rocks. That movie's kind of incredible.
Yeah.
Holden Wook says, not what I expected, but good. Went into it blind thinking it was all about outdoor adventure. Has a much deeper story about overcoming, like you were saying. Which is weird, because I just had that exact thought. As you were describing it, I was like, oh, it's for real? It's about all that?
Yeah.
And Chief is clarifying that they live above a theater and they go down to watch a movie. I'm remembering that.
Oh, right.
Yes.
I remember now.
Almost said that one. When the water drips from the ceiling, when the bathtub overflows. Right. Which, by the way, just a quick side note, there is a heavy queer reading. Since we have been talking about queer films and queer horror this month, there is some really interesting writing on the internet about the queerness of the Universal horror films, and Creature from the Black Lagoon often comes up, citing the fact that this movie is about a bunch of men together on a boat. The creature is their desire below the surface, an animalistic thing, and the woman constantly is standing in the way of that. And the writer that I read said something to the effect of, like, take the hint, lady. But the great thing about this, I bought this DVD years ago. The 2004, wow. So in 2004, Universal put out all their classic monsters in complete collections. And 2004, there's a quote on the back, and the quote says, if I had to pick one monster that moves me, it would be the creature from the Black Lagoon. And that quote is Guillermo del Toro.
Ah, well, there you go. Hey, how about that?
So...
Now, I remember we watched that movie when we were staying in a cabin on a lake, an isolated cabin on a lake in the middle of the night. It was super dark. We turned off all the lights and watched that movie, and it was very fun.
It was so good. And that was when you, like...
Immersive.
That also the TV, it was like a TV cabin TV, and it was like all stretched to widescreen.
Oh man, the aspect ratio. Oh, it was like such a drama.
It was, but you were like, why does it take so long? But then, or you were giving me shit, and I was
admittedly.
And then I was like, look, this is what it could look like. This is what it should look like. And I remember you being like, oh, I think I understand why you do that now. Yeah. I was like, finally.
It was like one of the first times you really went off on a long tangential, like, oh man, it was really, I was like up and down, like, I was like, is it gonna happen tonight, or are we just not watching the movie?
It's a 70-minute movie.
That's exactly what you said. You were like, it can wait.
Holden Wook also dabbled with some Downton Abbey, which I have not seen.
I haven't
but I know people love. And honestly, I would probably love it. And Shaun of the Dead, which is just, speaking of top movies of the decade, that's in my top 30 for the aughts. That movie is great. I also love how in Scream 4 they're watching Shaun of the Dead. I always liked that kind of look at what become the new classics for teenagers.
Yeah.
I would love to. We've talked about Cornetto trilogy more than once on this show. I would really love to go back and proper watch Shaun, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End.
Yeah.
All right. Bittersweet film that spent some time in a theater's Last Picture Show. Now, Last Picture Show, I'm adding to the list. I haven't seen Last Picture Show.
It's been a very long time since I've seen that movie, but yeah. Y'all
doing okay, guys?
Are we just like fighting, or?
I'm happy to know the cat's alive because that was kind of a scary noise that we just heard.
I know.
Seriously, we just heard like a meow and then kind of a crack and then silence. I think both of us were like, did the dog just kill the cat? Okay, let me add. She would never. Okay, let me just add Last Picture Show because I'm tired of forgetting about this. Sybil Shepherd. This was Peter Bogdanovich. This was one of my when I worked at a video store, it was in my boss's stat picks. I don't think it ever left his stat picks. He loved it. I just never watched it. Well, cool and the gang, y'all. Let's talk about what we watched.
Yeah. And feel free to continue to drop thoughts, recommendations, or anything that you watched this week that you want to discuss as we dive into what we watched.
Yes. So we watched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things together, and I watched one on my own. Mm-hmm. Let me knock out the one on my own real quick.
Go for it.
I watched, now, I just on a whim the other night threw this on. I will say, the first movie we watched together was The Watermelon Woman. Mm-hmm. First time watch for me.
Same.
Watermelon Woman is often cited as like a seminal lesbian film from the 90s. It is about a woman who works at a video store and takes place mostly in a video store, and she's making a documentary on a forgotten black actress from the 30s named The Watermelon, who's credited as The Watermelon Woman. Real name Faye Richards. Faye Richards, not a real actress, so it's like a mockumentary within a mockumentary. And why don't we just talk about that?
I was about to say,
I'm talking about because it'll segue into what I watched. I watched what I watched because of The Watermelon Woman.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So, Watermelon Woman was fantastic. It was funny. It definitely felt like someone's first movie. Yeah. It definitely had a lot of like awkward transitions. Some of the acting was independent. Mm-hmm.
That's
It's a low budget indie.
Yeah.
But it felt like I kept thinking this would be a fun double feature with Clerks, just to see like the black lesbian woman perspective, and then the like gross out like portly white nerd perspective.
Yeah.
They're like both video stores with such different perspectives. Mm-hmm. But I really ended up loving this movie.
I did too. I think we both agreed at the end. Again, as you were saying, you can very much tell this is someone's first feature. There are like kind of some bumbly moments, especially in the editing and the acting, but the writing and the idea behind it was just fantastic. Like, and just speaking of ideas, not just the idea holistically, but like the ideas within the film. Like you can tell just the way it's shot and sort of like these meta elements, and you know, you can tell there's a lot of like experimenting and a lot of great ideas.
Yeah, and you can tell it's made by someone who loves film, and I think like that's always exciting. Like, you know, speaking as someone who worked in a video store when I made a feature film that is bloated with influence and is messy because I wanted to be so many things at once, I found a kinship in this movie. Mm-hmm. Like, I get it. Maybe not everything works, but you're throwing all the spaghetti at the wall, and that's admirable. And I love what you're going for. Yeah,
and also just, you know, thinking about in 97, like, making such a, like, very specifically black queer movie, you know, that alone is, like, something to be cherished and seen as part of film history.
Mm-hmm. And not just that, but the fact that she is trying to spotlight black history in films, which, like, she references Spike Lee a few times. Which
you can also tell is an influence in the way the film is made.
For sure.
Like, hella Spike Lee vibes.
Yeah, like the intertitles and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like a few, a lot of the kind of
like tracking.
For real, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
You can definitely, you're right. But, like, it made me think, so I'm always thinking what should be the double feature with this. Mm-hmm. And I thought that, you know, Clerks is a silly idea. But also, It reminded me kind of Forgotten Silver, which is this Peter Jackson mockumentary about Colin McKenzie, who is a fictional filmmaker. And there's a great, hilarious mockumentary by Peter Jackson that he made for New Zealand TV called Forgotten Silver. That is the story of a fictional filmmaker who we just discovered his reels in a storage bin, and it turns out he invented sound, color, movement, everything. It's very silly and very funny. But this was also a mockumentary about film history, but whereas that's explicitly a comedy, this wants us to critically think about how we view black representation in film. Mm-hmm. I'm going to recommend this. I've recommended it before. This is $50 on Prime. It is worth every penny. This is Kino's Pioneers of African American Cinema set. It is, let me see the runtime on this, 1,266 minutes. So I don't know what the math on that is because I'm not good enough at math, but that's like 20 hours, I want to say, of movies. I think I've only watched disc 1 and disc 2 of this. It's 5 discs. But speaking of, these is entirely movies that were either produced, directed, written, or starring black casts, often called race films in the 30s. And it's got the early Oscar Me Show stuff on there, like Within Our Gates.
Which are the films they're referencing in The Watermelon Woman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it really made me think of this. Like, if you watch Watermelon Woman and you are interested in actually pursuing... Now, Watermelon Woman, like we said, is inventing a character because through inventing her, it allows Cheryl Dunier to talk about what she wants to because she gets to craft the history to what she wants to express. Mm-hmm. But if you're interested in diving in, like... in particular, Within Our Gates from 1920 deserves to be mentioned alongside Nosferatu, fucking Waxworks. It deserves to be mentioned Intolerance. It deserves to be thought of as a seminal American work. Mm-hmm. And, well, because we live in a racist country and history is written by the victors, these things are washed aside, but can't recommend this set enough. Watermelon Woman... is a really fun way to start to peek that. Yeah. It also got me reading a Bell Hooks essay on black female spectatorship and the gaze and the oppositional gaze. There's a great essay. I don't need to get all academic on you now, but if you watch The Watermelon Woman, I really recommend finding Bell Hooks' essay, The Oppositional Gaze, which is 10 pages long, and reading that as well.
And that's in the collection of essays about...
It's it's literally a textbook I found last year when I got this set, because I think I just want to be a film student my whole life, so I always try to find the book that I can read to pair with the movies. Yeah. It's called Black American Cinema. I don't know if it's in print. It's a textbook technically, but it's full of essays, and Bell Hooks is the last essay in the book. Yeah,
and also after we watched The Watermelon Woman, is there the article? Is it Watermelon Woman? I've seen it listed both ways.
And Chief is saying that he watched The Watermelon Woman for Black History Month to write on the blog.
Hey!
Definitely. Let's find that and share that right now. Then.
That's
if you have a blog post about it, we need to share it.
That's great.
Speaking of reading.
100%. I was going to say that there is a box set of Cheryl Dunier's early shorts works. If you want to check that out. I forget what it's called, but I'm sure a little Google will lead you right to it. Also, I didn't know that because of Cheryl Dunier and kind of her style of this documentary within a documentary, this sort of meta-documentary style, there's something called a Dunier-mentary.
So is it
like a subgenre?
A subgenre of a mockumentary?
I think the idea is the subgenre is like a documentary within a documentary, or like a documentary about someone making a documentary. I don't fully understand it. I haven't done a deep dive into it yet, but I'm sure if you look up Cheryl Dunier, Dunier-mentary, and all that jazz, you can find more information on not only her films, but the films that influenced.
Here, this I think sums it up. The Dunier-mentary, which is a hybrid of narrative, documentary, comedy, and autobiography.
Great. Love it. I mean, that's exactly what The Watermelon Woman is.
Yeah, because it's also about her experience as a film lover.
Yeah.
And that's why I also recommend that Bell Hooks essay, because I am going to grab it. I want to quote one thing from it that this movie made me think of.
Do you want...
And Great Job Nerds also says he remembers putting it back on the shelf at Beyond last weekend.
Hey.
It makes sense that people are renting it during Queer History Month as well. Queer History Month, Pride Month, Black History Month. It also, I remember seeing this talked about and kind of it got put on my radar in February. And then this month I saw it pop up again for queer movies you can watch for Pride Month. And it was like, okay, let's fucking watch this.
I've been wanting to watch this one for a while. I can grab that book for you, or I can scooch if you want to.
Actually, you're closer.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure.
It's on the bedside table. I was reading it last night. Yes, so I just dropped the link from Doom on Film, which is Chief's blog, which y'all should go check out on Tumblr. And check out his thoughts on The Watermelon Woman. This is very recommended. And yeah, this book, Black American Cinema, I think I bought this during Black History Month 2020, before the world shut down. But bell hooks in this says, let's see. Talking with black women of all ages and classes in different areas of the United States about their filmic-looking relations, I heard, again and again, ambivalent responses to cinema. Only a few of the black women I talked with remembered the pleasure of race movies, the movies from the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and even those who did felt that pleasure interrupted and usurped by Hollywood. Most of the black women I talked with were adamant that they never went to movies expecting to see compelling representations of black femaleness. They were all acutely aware of cinematic racism and its violent erasure of black womanhood. This essay in particular is about looking and the gaze and how the gaze itself, male gaze, is phallocentric, and when race films came along, they were centering black men. And so Watermelon Woman pairs very well with this essay because it is bell hooks explicitly examining what it is like to be a black female film fan. Good stuff.
Love that.
Very interesting. Okay. Which lead? Do you have any other thoughts on Watermelon Woman?
I mean, I think we pretty well covered it.
And Chief, yes, I want to say definitely some serious 90s energy for sure.
For sure.
Like, you say Spike Lee influence, it's also feels a little like Kevin Smith and Linklater too.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely has that 90s indie, fuck it, grab a camera, let's talk.
Yeah.
Like, this movie is going to be people talking like people talk.
Yeah.
Like Slacker, Clerks, it feels that way.
For sure.
I loved it. Okay, so, in the background, because it takes place in a video store, in an early scene of this movie, she is shelving movies in the video store. And I noticed a lot of my favorite movies on tape on the shelf behind her. And I thought, what is that? Oh, it's a director's section. And I could see, I could see RoboCop and Basic Instinct. And I was like, that's Paul Verhoeven. What's very funny is that Showgirls would come out the next year. Paul Verhoeven's one of my favorites, but I haven't ever dived deep into his Dutch work because he's a Dutch filmmaker. He came to the U.S. with RoboCop. So the other night, because I saw that in Watermelon Woman, and because it's Pride Month, I watched Paul Verhoeven's kind of prototype for Basic Instinct, which is a queer satire on the ego of the writer and the paranoia of men called The Fourth Man. It was
know this.
Real good. I put it on at 2 a.m. I finished it at 4. Really, really fantastic. It was his last movie in the Netherlands before moving. But it's essentially about a writer named Gerard Rev. And I was like, isn't Rev French for dream? It is, which is a clue. It's basically about this guy who he's an alcoholic gay writer. The movie begins with him fantasizing about killing his boyfriend, already kind of in this weird dream or not dream. And he ends up falling for this woman who he like covers her breasts when they're having sex so she looks like a boy. She has very short hair, so it's this toying with sexuality, like falls for her even though he's gay. Essentially, he finds out that she has 3 dead husbands before him, and he starts thinking she's a witch, a black widow, and that she's pursuing him. But really, it's about his own ego as a writer, paranoia, his self-obsession, his desire for her to be a man and not a woman. And it really just felt like a Basic Instinct, kind of like very sexual, lot of nudity, very Paul Verhoeven, like almost to the degree of being sleazy. Like everyone's hair looks like slightly too dirty for them to be the acting in a movie. But really, really interesting. Like, if you like Basic Instinct and Showgirls, you can kind of see where those things come from.
Cool.
Anyway, The Fourth Man. It's great.
Very cool.
Yeah. It was cool.
Cool.
And I'm excited to watch more Verhoeven. So that's the only one I watched on my own. So next one up is this.
Something Special.
Something Special, 1987, also known as Willy Millie.
Willy/Millie.
Willy/Millie. This, okay. I rented this a lot as a kid.
Mm-hmm. And I had never seen this.
You'd never seen it before.
This is the first time watching it for me.
I rented this a lot as a kid and remembered it being goofy. Bought it recently because I've been frankly, because sometimes I just remember a random thing that never made it to DVD, and I'm like, I gotta buy that before it becomes too rare. I just want to have it here. This is about a girl who... okay. First of all, it's a teen movie. Mm-hmm. Second of all, Seth Green is in it as like a 10-year-old kid. And Seth Green is this weirdly like magical creature who...
just sort of pops up out of nowhere.
He's a kid, though.
Yeah.
He's like someone's little brother, but he's also like a magical being. He gives her a wishing rock and says, during the solar eclipse, throw this at your favorite star and make your deepest wish. She does. She wakes up the next morning with a penis. She tells everybody right away, which I was like, thank God. I didn't want to deal with a lot of dramatic irony of people not knowing. It's awesome that she says it right away.
I mean, right away.
Right away.
She's like, wakes up and is like, okay, let's figure this out.
Tells her family. Her family's first reaction is, like, basically through the course of a few things, her parents know, they take her to some doctors, and they say, now, side note, this is based on a book in which she had undescended male organs that appeared at puberty, where there's a scientific explanation. In the movie, it's given a magical explanation.
So in the book, it's like...
In the book, she's literally intersex.
Intersex?
Yes. Mm-hmm. But essentially, the doctors and her family are like, what do you want to be? You want to be, like, they want her to choose a lane. She says, is it okay if I'm both? Mm-hmm. And that, for me, is the first time I've ever seen intersex representation. Mm-hmm. So, throughout the course of this movie, everyone pretty much honors her/his gender identity and decisions. Mm-hmm. It has a bit of a disappointing return to status quo kind of ending. Yeah. But I was very surprised by, I think going here. Anyway, I wanted to set it up. I'm going to hand the talking tape to you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this movie is really interesting because I don't think it was intentional, but a lot of this in the writing is incredibly accepting.
Like, his dad, at the point in the movie, he's Millie has become Willie, and Willie is everyone is accepted. Like, it's almost like
the mom is like struggling with it, and the dad keeps saying like it's he, him, it's Willie.
Just saying it's he.
But the thing is there is an aspect of that is because the dad desperately wants a son and has always wanted a son and is so elated to have a son, and the mom is like, this is my little girl, this is my daughter. So there is like a weird interplay of, you know, this sort of like gender normativity and expectation and all of these things that do feel very like outdated and problematic, mixed with a lot of interesting conversation about a child identifying the way they want to identify and parents accepting that and their journey of accepting that.
I would say you nailed it. That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, it's so interesting how it's clinging to 50s normativity, but it's almost like this movie came out before people were aware enough of trans identity to become bigoted against it. Yeah. So as soon as she's like, I identify as a boy from now on, it's like everyone's like, okay, if that's who you are, I love you. Yeah. And it's weird because you're right. It is very much like men are strong and chop down trees, women stay at home and cook, but you can be either if you'd like to be. Yeah. It's a weird mix of...
Yeah, there's also like the way that the magic is brought about. There's like very feminine, feminist, like witchy energy too. It's like a lot of talk about the moon and like, you know, aligning with the moon and just like doing witchy shit.
And the boy, and this is very similar to the plot of Just One of the Guys, which is Just One of the Guys is not magical. She doesn't actually become biologically, I don't know what the word is because I don't want to, anyway, because not all men have penises, and vice versa. In this one, I will say Millie gets a penis. In Just One of the Guys, the main character is simply disguising herself. But they both have the similar plot point of another boy who's a nerdy social outcast falling for them and thinking he's gay and worrying that he's gay. And then that's where the status quo ending comes back. Excuse me, and it becomes a little disappointing. Because at that point in the movie, Millie says, "Don't worry, you're not gay. I'm actually a girl," and reverts and makes a new wish and goes back to being...
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that things would continue along with like...
Yeah.
But, you know.
Kind of hoping for the, well, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a very famous movie with gender play, black and white classic, that actually ends with someone just committing to their new identity. And it's kind of amazing, but I don't want to spoil it because it's one we need to watch.
And also, is it Pamela Segal or Siegel?
Pamela Siegel, I think.
Pamela Siegel. Okay, this is the first role or the earliest role I've seen her in. And she's just fantastic. I mean...
She is.
She's like, to this day, is just an incredible actor. So charming, so likable.
Adorable.
Yeah,
I was definitely crushing on Willie and Millie in this movie.
Same, 100%.
Something special, definitely worth the price of admission. All right, let's keep it moving, KIM. Well, we've got our movie club pick, Desert Hearts. To that in a second. And then we've got these two. Let's talk about this one first and just make it quick.
Okay.
As y'all know, we have been rewatching through the Star Wars films in numerical order for the first time for both of us. Finally made it to Empire. Like we talked about last week, y'all. What were we talking about last week? With you, Wedge, I think. Saying, like, Empire, we're going to end up watching a special edition Blu-ray of because the changes aren't that bad. There's one change that annoyed me. Two changes that really annoy me, but that's it. They're the only things that took me out of it. One is the voice of Boba Fett being changed to the actor from the prequels and who did Django. And two is the Emperor sequence where Vader talks to the Emperor. Originally in the dialogue there, they refer to Luke Skywalker as being the son of Skywalker. In this one, they talk about Anakin and they drop all this stuff. And
yeah, I didn't really like that. I was honestly a little
messy.
Disappointed that we didn't watch the original.
Really?
Yeah.
But it looked so good for the rest of the time. Well.
That being said, getting to The Empire Strikes Back was, after all of this context, so satisfying. Ugh.
Yeah, it was. And by the way, the no is from Jedi, and we are going to watch the DVD copy of Jedi where we don't have to deal with that bullshit. I cannot have that moment ruined after 5 movies build up.
Right.
No way.
Same.
But yeah, sorry, go on. Just incredibly, yes. That aside,
it just felt like I think we both agreed that it felt like watching it for the first time.
I was like giddy. Like we went on a walk afterwards, and I was like, "Forgive me because I'm gonna gush." But that reminded this viewing of Empire in this, like, it had been years for me. And I think I watched it so much as a kid that I know every beat of this story. I know every line in the script, but it felt like it reminded me why I loved Star Wars. It reminded me why I love story. I felt at once like everything cut deeper because I'm an adult with deeper emotions, but also I felt like it grabbed my joy and imagination in a way that it hasn't since I was a child. It was like, I think we paused it for a pee break halfway through, and I think I turned to Steph and was like, this is the best movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, just like you were saying, just captured that sense of like wonder, awe, and joy, and also reminded me why people really put Star Wars on a pedestal and in like a religious way. You know, see it as like truly a philosophy, a way of life. And also made me mad for people who take that and twist it the wrong way. But that's another discussion for another time.
Yo, you know, it really, I gotta say that as a member of this, every American generation born for the past 50 years or 40 years has their own Star Wars. And for my generation in particular, I distinctly remember after episode 2 came out, all of the Yoda icon. I grew up with Yoda being on my folders and stuff, and it would be like Yoda's speeches about like do or do not, there is no try, or you know, like
anger leads to hate, or
exactly.
What is it? I'm sure.
Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate leads to suffering. But it was all that. And then after episode 2, all the iconography in the pop culture, from the kids' school supplies to the action figures, instead of having a cane and wise thoughts, he had a lightsaber and he was always looking angry. And that always kind of broke my heart.
Yeah.
But, I mean, dude, watching this, it's like my brain allowed me to forget everything. Even though I knew it, everything hit harder. Like, the one thing that, in addition to Yoda, just like, that you will be. I'm not afraid. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
That shit was like hardcore.
That was so hardcore.
And there is another.
I mean,
Ugh.
But
like,
the you will be, man. Woo.
Yeah.
I mean, I just got chills. Like,
you
just like young, cocky kid being like, I'm not afraid. It's like, oh, buckle up, buddy.
You know, that's what it is that as a kid, you think of Luke and you just identify with everything. Yeah, I want to go to Tashi Station too. What the fuck? Let me out of here. Like, you're that kid. And I think watching it at my age now, I saw Luke as a kid. And I had this like, oh, bud, you have no clue how hard it gets.
Yeah.
When the fight with, the confrontation with Vader on Bespin. I don't think I have ever watched this scene and thought, or sequence, and thought, I don't think I've fully ever understood how badly Luke is getting his ass kicked from the jump. Like, I think when you're a kid, you're like, they all kind of blend together, and you're like, it's Luke fighting Vader for the first time. This time, it's like Luke is trying to keep up with lightsaber moves, and Vader is like, without even using his hands, throwing air conditioning units and shit at him, like... Luke stands no chance. Yeah. He jumps out of the freezing unit, and that like shows he has promise. But like, if that hole wasn't there, he would have been dead.
Yeah.
Vader would have fucking killed him. He was throwing kill shots on that bridge.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like, I don't think I ever realized just how much he's flailing. And just how much of a child he is.
Full on flailing. And yeah, just so unprepared.
So unprepared. And like, trying to even go deeper and put it in the historical context of watching through as a first time, like watching this in theaters in 79, like, you're watching the hero from the first movie who's like, blew up the Death Star, and then you're watching him just like, be constantly told that he's fucking hot. Like, from the first moment, he gets captured by a wampa. He gets like beat up by a bear, saved by his friend who doesn't know the Force at all but knows how to survive in the wild. Goes to train, acts like a total spoiled brat to essentially like a Shaolin master, who then like refuses to train him until his like.
It's the trials and tribulations to break down the ego, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Breaking down Luke's ego.
Yeah.
You blow up the Death Star, so fucking what?
You can't
blow up the dark side.
You truly can't harness the Force with ego in your way.
And
let go of
even watching, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And even though I know that like there's multiple ways to watch this movie because of the prequels, it was like the prequels also gave me even though I tried not to consider them too much, I will say that it gave a new sense of depth to Yoda's like, hell no, I'm not training him. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, dang, Holden Book didn't catch There Is Another until he was like 28. Amazing. Yeah, that shit with the light play on Yoda's face of the X-Wing taking off and leaving him in darkness. And even the way the movie ends with Luke being like, Father, and you're like, is Luke going to turn to the dark side now?
I know.
What a cliffhanger.
Wow.
This movie is the best movie ever made. It is incredible technical achievement. It is incredible war movie, incredible philosophy. Just every line of dialogue hits, everything hits. And God, it feels so like night and day with the prequels.
Yeah. Oh, night and day.
I'm really excited to get to Jedi, but in my heart, Jedi's my favorite, but in my heart I know that nothing's going to top the moments of this screenwriting and this storytelling.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, so far, having seen all of these movies and rewatching them, this is the one, I think we talked about this last week, the one we watched last week, A New Hope. I got incredibly emotional at the end because I was like, gosh, this is such an accomplishment. It's such a feat, like, as far as the effects and just what it was doing in that arena. But this one takes that and marries it with just insanely stellar storytelling. And you're just, like, on a whole nother level. And
all the reveals, things I didn't catch until I was older, the sense of scale, the reveal of the walkers for the first time, the reveal of the Super Star Destroyer.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, wow.
That is why you fail. Yes. Oh, man. Well, the mumbling death sounds, that is in Jedi. So we haven't gotten to Yoda's death just yet. But the failure at the cave, yes. The Hoth sequence is the greatest visual technical achievement of its time.
Incredible.
I think I would completely agree with that.
Yeah.
And I love seeing, what's his name? Oh my God, what's his name? The bad guy from Raiders. Not the Nazi, but the bad treasure hunter who teams up with the Nazis from Raiders. The French guy. If anyone knows his name, let me know. When he takes the X-Wing out of the swamp. Yes, as a kid, it's always like, oh, cool, Yoda can do that. And as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
Luke's just watching him
Luke's
like,
you're asking me to do an impossible task. Destroy him up. Pout, pout, pout. And then Yoda's like, okay, hold on.
yeah.
Sure.
Yoda's like, I was training around 28-year-olds who were murdered by your dad because he threw a temper tantrum, so fuck off. I gotta know, the Dukan, the bad guy in Raiders of the Lost Ark. No, not Tote. Not Arnold Tote. Okay, I'm not gonna find it right now. God, what is his... We're figuring this out. Belloc. Renee Belloc. Yes, Belloc is the AT&T commander who's like target, and I love how he's the bad guy in Raiders and the first sequence of this. I just like how he's bouncing around, always trying to give Harrison Ford a hard time.
Did you say the AT&T?
The AT.
I thought you said he is the AT&T commander.
I did.
He is. Thank you for calling AT&T. How can I help you?
I absolutely did. Belloc, yes. AT, which, if you don't know, is all-terrain armored transport.
Yeah, you know.
And, God, anyway, I really like... I think it had probably been, like, maybe 8 years since I've watched through the Star Wars movies. This was maybe my favorite movie watching experience in recent history. Yeah. I, like, really...
Riveting.
Really re-inspired the child in my heart.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah, it really makes you think, like, anything is possible.
Right? I'm like, if you get the right team of artists, sculptors, engineers, scientists, anything is possible. Writers.
Casting director.
Yeah, just ask.
Let's shout out the casting director for a minute.
Right?
Sorry, I just,
Also, I don't want to sound problematic, but I'm not sure. I think I don't want to, maybe I shouldn't say this. I think Ugnaughts are kind of fucked up. Okay? The Ugnaughts are kind of assholes. And I don't know if they're all Ugnaughts are assholes, but the ones we meet on Bespin kind of are. Sorry. Ugnaughts are the engineer creatures who run everything on Bespin.
Yeah.
What am I eating? I'm sorry. I was chewing on a piece of ice. No, don't want to give anyone misophonia here. Porkins is the top men G-man in Raiders. That is crazy. I love that. I love Spielberg and Lucas just recommending actors to each other. Well, rad. The last thing we watched was Bo Burnham's Inside.
Uh-huh.
Hands up. Get the fuck out of your seat if you watched Bo Burnham's Inside. Get your fucking hands up. Get on out of your seat. All eyes on me. All eyes on me.
Have you watched this special? If so, what did you think?
That wasn't a fart. That was my belt against the chair.
That's what he wants you to think.
I'll do it again. Oh, I can't.
That's because it was a fart.
It's the pants.
Okay, so I'm assuming Great Job Nerds is referencing Bo Burnham's special, saying it's incredible. I agree. I fucking loved nearly every second. I'm not going to say every second, but nearly every second of this special.
Yeah.
I loved. I mean, talk about feats. Like, wow. I was talking to Adam about this afterwards. I was like, the lighting alone, the number of takes and sort of like the thoughtful, like, you know, preparation and problem solving to get all that lighting and the timing, just that alone is like wild. And then on top of that, right, just the pacing and the writing and the editing and the songwriting. I mean, oh boy. And the mixing on the songs is so good. Ugh.
Everything about it is great. I would agree with you. Near perfect. Excuse me. I do think that there are moments that you can tell, like, I think this is just what happens whenever anyone makes something entirely on their own. There are definitely moments where you can tell that, like, I'm saying this because I know I've been guilty of this. Whenever I make my own, like, video project, I always make it, like, longer and more thoughtful than maybe it needs to be. Mm-hmm. Because you as an artist are always going to anticipate your pace, and that pace might be a little different than your audience. What I'm saying is, there are moments in which you can tell he was in charge of the edit because things move a little bit slow. But I watched this twice in a week, and I gotta say the second time felt much faster to me. And the second time was the time in which I was like, okay, this is a masterpiece. There it is. I used it. I used the word. And so is Empire. That's 2 for one episode.
Let the record show.
Let it show. Yeah, as someone who has thrown his hat across the room in a rage because his 5th take of a TikTok rap was going poorly, I can only imagine the level of which, like, the take rage and the precision, like, that scene where he's like, fuck this, and knocks everything over, I'm like, bruh, I feel that.
I know.
Because, like, trying to get it all timed out perfectly, and then not only do you have to set everything up, but you've got to do obviously perform the song perfectly, but then all the little things he's doing with lighting, like the flicking, like on the hi-hat with
I just got chills again.
And even, like, getting the disco ball in the very opening to time so that the spin reverses halfway through. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to time that out.
Everything is timed so precisely.
I was going to keep listing examples, but it's really the whole thing.
That's the whole thing.
And, yeah, like, I've been singing that, too. I think annoying Stephanie. Like, every night I'm like, I'm a FaceTime with my mom tonight. These 40 minutes are essential. Favorite song. For those of you who have seen it, it definitely has, I think, a lot to say about, frankly, I was happy just to see a lot of these sentiments said. I was also inspired, weirdly, as a musician to be able to talk about more in music and stop fucking caring what the audience wants. A lot of his criticisms of, like, internet culture I very much agree with, and I think I've held myself back from commenting in similar ways because they seem, I don't know, because of fear, really. Mm-hmm. But watching this was inspiring as a human, as an artist. I'm grateful it exists. But you know what really holds it all together are these incredibly catchy numbers. So what's your favorite song in the special stuff?
I mean, I feel like that opening number is like...
The opening of, like, Daddy Made You Some Content?
Yeah. I feel like it just, like, captured... I mean, for me to say I have a favorite, I have to rewatch the special because as I was watching it, I I was really viewing it as like a holistic piece of work, and I was just like in the moment and really like laser focused on taking everything in. So I'd have to go back and like listen to the songs again to like really pinpoint a favorite. But for me, like that opening number is like kind of captures the essence of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not just about like the meta commentary of making content as an artist and what that means. It's also a meta commentary about like the network, probably him being behind with the network and being frustrated with his own mental health and being like, look here, I made you some content. Like there are so many layers to it. For me, it just sort of is like a perfect umbrella number for the whole special. Mm-hmm. But again, I'd have to go back and rewatch because every song was incredibly catchy and really just great.
He knows how to hit those 4 chord structures to get your ears to remember.
Yeah, to get that pop music.
He knows his structures.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go ahead and agree with Great Job Nerds here that the Put Your Fucking Hands Up song is probably my favorite.
That was so good too.
This sounds like it could be a Drake single on the radio.
I'm already like, but that one.
Put your hands up. That's one that I definitely think could be a genuine like
jam.
You put that on a Kid Cudi or a Drake record,
yeah.
and it's gonna be on the charts.
Yeah.
I think my favorite song musically is Problematic because I love that sort of synth pop. I'm problematic.
Yeah.
I love that song. Like I also thought it was the special kind of white guy stuff was very funny. But I will say that my favorite number in terms of the lyrical content was That's the Way the World Works with the sock puppet.
That was so good.
I was singing that to myself in the shower today, actually. Like,
that was so good. And see, I think that's the thing is like I don't remember them well enough to be like I'm singing it in the shower.
I watched it twice in a row.
There you go.
Because I watched it late at night, barely remembered it, was kind of falling asleep, but enjoying it. And the next day, I finished it late, and the next day I was like, this is really good if you want to watch it. And you were like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So then I watched it again like earlier and absorbed it, the whole thing.
Yeah, and
loved it.
That's the Way the World works was great. Again, the whole thing was.
Anyway, high big recommendation. So if we're going through here, Watermelon Woman, recommended to everyone, but especially if you're interested in the history of women and black women in film, and if you like 90s indie stuff, you'll dig it. Something special. It's a great 80s sex comedy. Recommended to fans of 80s teen comedies. Maybe not everybody.
I think it's an interesting one to rewatch and sort of think about contextually and digest what that, what was intentionally accepting and what was accidentally accepting.
Mm-hmm. For sure. The Fourth Man, I would recommend to fans of Paul Verhoeven, especially if you like Basic Instinct. Or in general, if you like the 90s were the golden age of this sex thriller. Fourth Man is from the 80s though, because he always been perverted. And then Bo Burnham and Empire, I would say I recommend to everybody.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Well, shall we move into
New
arrivals? We got a short new arrivals section today, y'all, and then we're gonna come back for Movie Club where we will be discussing Desert Hearts. Whoops. I chose the one that said Movie Club by accident.
Oh, that is so embarrassing.
New arrivals. I wanted to add an emote or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 to Twitch today before the stream to surprise y'all with, and I ran out of time. We had to get started.
Yeah.
But that's going to be my goal for next week, is to have some emotes for everybody. Okay. Let's do new arrivals. Like I said, the stack is pretty short. First of all, Stephanie encouraged me to spend $5 on getting Xanadu on tape, just so I could spell out. I was
like, you have to.
Yeah, there was a thing going around my tape group where people were spelling out rappers' names with tapes. And the guy actually did it for me, and I didn't realize that. But I was like, I want to spell out my name with tapes that, like, movies that I feel represent my self, my brand, in a callous way of putting it. Xanadu is a favorite of mine, so I got it for the X in my name.
Xanadu.
Bing, 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 bing. Xanadu. Now you are here in Xanadu. Love ELO, love Olivia Newton-John, hell yeah.
3-letter names.
I love Xanadu.
It's great.
Xanadu gets, like, shit on for some stupid reason. It's the best.
It's great. I'm going to adjust the lighting here and see if we can get a little
Oh, yeah.
It's about that time.
Use your fucking hand. I may have already talked about this. The Devils, I'm not sure. I may have forgotten this in a previous week. But The Devils is... The Devils is a Ken Russell movie from the 70s that is notorious for the fact that Warner Brothers has neutered all releases of it. It's only been available in an R-rated cut, which omits some of the sequences. Essentially, this is about sexual and violent hysteria in a convent caused by a radical priest. And Warner Brothers has just clamped down on the rights to this and not allowed it to be anywhere. One of the nuns from this movie is actually in a background shot in the Space Jam 2 trailer because Warner Brothers is so weirdly dangling the IPs they own, even though they refuse to put out the X-rated version of this movie. But British Film Institute put out the X-rated version of this movie for British DVD owners, and I bought it because I've only ever seen the R-rated movie. This is an incredible movie about religion, sex, hysteria, queerness, life. Devils, a masterpiece. That's the third time for the episode.
Ooh, ding, ding, ding.
Who put out that DVD? I have a shitty bootleg rip that leaves a lot to be desired. Munson, that is the copy I owned for years. And I never even finished watching it for that precise reason. Because I had watched it on tape, on this tape. I had watched it on this tape, which is R-rated, that I rented from I Love Video in Austin. And then I bought it on DVD, and I thought it was the uncut version, but turns out it was a bootleg, and I think we may have had the same bootleg, and it sucked, and I never finished it. Amazon.co.uk, the British Amazon. Go to the UK Amazon. It's like $20. Worth having a copy, and who knows if Warner Brothers will ever let Criterion have the rights to this, or ever put it out on Blu-ray. I don't know, but it's hard to find, so I snagged it. I've also got this tape that I got from a friend in a tape group. I do not believe that I talked about this last week. Stop me if I have. Uh-oh.
I got
Dog.
it. The animals are getting
The animals, it's 10 minutes till their dinner. I don't think I put this up. So, basically on June 1st of this year, someone discovered a cut of Super Mario Brothers called the Morton Jankel cut, which is the last names of the directors. It's the director's cut. It's 25 minutes longer. Apparently involves Mario saying motherfucker and some sex workers in Dinotopia. So it's this weird, like, extended, bigger world cut of Super Mario Brothers, which I always loved as a kid. And anyway, I'm in a tape group I've mentioned here before. A lot of love for the dudes and dudes in that group. And one of them took that cut that was re-released, downloaded it, and put it on a bootleg tape with their own original art, along with some videos like the making of, the story of Mario, some other stuff they were able to find from archival Nintendo tapes. So I'm really excited to watch this and see what the big differences are. And then finally, I mentioned that I have not been, like, buying up the sort of like Blu-rays that I once did. That's why you see a lot more tapes on the program, because they are cheaper. But I pre-ordered these back in February. I kind of forgot about them. That's always fun to forget about something you ordered. I pre-ordered these from Shout Factory. They finally came out. They are The Wind Rises and The Secret World of Arrietty steelbooks from Shout Factory. Shout Factory, so pretty. Shout Factory's been putting out the Studio Ghibli catalog. One or two at a time every few months, which the nice thing about that is it makes it easy to buy without ever feeling like you're breaking the bank, because they're about, I think, $18 each. So I dropped $36.40 on this back in February. They arrived. So by doing that over the course of the past year, it has allowed me to get this little Studio Ghibli steelbook section. And we've talked about doing a Studio Ghibli run on the show before. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, that brings us to the end of the new arrival section, my friends. And with that, I think I'm going to take my pee break and come back for Movie Club.
Do it.
Oh, you know what? You should order the Duniamentary box set so that you have a new arrival.
Ah, that's a good idea.
You should buy it for yourself.
Movie Club.
Oh, amazing. Oh, I love that weird forced perspective thing. Shout out if you've been here for a while, if you've been a regular of the video store for a while, and you remember the Christmas mouse. Oh, I will never forget the moment with the Christmas mouse. Just a little mouse, a little Christmas mouse in a little shoebox that joined the stream. Lovely. Welcome to the Movie Club section of our show. You are in a video store. If you are just joining us, we are in our third and final section of the show where we discuss our movie club pick. This week it was Desert Hearts, I believe from 1985. Please let us know. Drop in the chat if you watched this movie this week or if you've seen it before. It is I guess you would call it a historical historical drama romance, I would say, set in 1959 about a woman who is getting a divorce finalized in Reno, and she's staying on a ranch where she meets a very sexy 10 years her junior ranch hand who is a woman, and they're both lesbians, and they fall for each other. And it was great. Love to know what you think. Again, we have been exploring / are exploring queer cinema for the entire month of June. Please let me know if you watched this. I highly recommend. I think we mentioned this at the top of the stream, but I had never heard of this movie, which I find kind of surprising. I mean, it seems like, a pretty big deal, especially for the sex scene in '85. But yeah.
I need water too.
Let him slide in here. I think.
Feed him?
No, I haven't.
I'm going to feed him to
Go
get
ahead.
him back.
I think Adam put it best. We both had almost the exact same gut reaction. If you can hear the cat freaking out because it's his dinner time.
We will deal with this sound very quickly.
We both had the same descriptor after we watched the movie, that it was a slice of life movie. I believe you said that. I was thinking the same thing. Love those little slice of life moments, those slice of life films that are just sort of like flash in the pan moments in time, just sort of following. I believe this movie takes place over the course of like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe? Stop me if you've heard this one.
I think it takes place over, now, we could probably Google how long it took to finalize a divorce in the 50s.
Yeah.
But I felt like it took place over about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, a few weeks. Is there a plot? Funny. It's yes and no. The plot is really about this older woman. She's 10 years older than this ranch hand. It's really about her trying to get her divorce finalized, which I will say, one thing I noticed / liked about this movie is not only do you never see her husband or hear from him, there also, really aren't very many men in this movie, period. And they don't really talk when they are. Not that that's always, whatever. I just think it's fitting for this film in particular. Back to the plot, or lack thereof. It really is about this woman who's trying to get her divorce finalized, and she is working with this divorce lawyer to figure out the reason for getting a divorce, which I suppose back then you had to have choose from a nice little bulleted list of reasons. Yeah, so it's really about her just coming to terms with, in my opinion, the real true reason. and that is that she is queer. She's gay. She's a lesbian, and she is very afraid to explore that. Over the course of the movie, they kind of like grapple with that notion and sort of how that unfolds, and
Yeah. I've been listening to what you're saying as I fed the insane cat, which I'm sure you guys all heard him chiming in his thoughts too. Slice of life. I'll start there. Actually, really, this movie, if it is a plot, it is about, like you said, she's, not only do we not see her husband, she's on really good terms with him. They are exiting their marriage amicably. They are both, amicably? They are both, I never know which way to say that word. They are both scholars in New York City. She teaches at Columbia. She's well respected. She's a big city, intellectual, educated, I would say upper middle class character. And then she's meeting, a ranch hand, working class Nevada girl. And this is this tale as old as time. The love story across the two sides of the tracks. Titanic, so many things that are cross-class love stories, but also here, obviously crossing that barrier too, not just of class and education, rural versus city, but her moving from a straight relationship to a gay relationship. It reminds me in this one way, I'm going to kind of throw this left field idea out here that like Wong Kar-wai made a movie about two gay men called Happy Together, and it's his only non-hetero love movie. It's also his only movie not set in Taiwan or Hong Kong. It's set in Argentina. And this makes me think of a similar thing here in the sense that in that movie, something I always thought about Happy Together was these characters are free to explore who they really are because they were removed from every societal rule of their immediate world. And so is the main character Vivian in Desert Hearts allowed to explore who she truly is because she is not surrounded by the academics of her job. She's not surrounded by the class and society that she and her husband have worked to cultivate. She even talks about how part of the reason she doesn't want to be gay is because it would be such a thing to explain to everybody back home.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I don't know if...
I think that's next door.
That was weird. I was like, hello? Just to kind of add on to that, it's a very good point, and it's sort of, you also see that in the way that she interacts with, please remind me of the character's name.
Kay?
Kay. C-A-Y, Kay. The way she interacts with Kay.
I'm just going to peek. Someone's hammering outside. I'm just going to peek. You can keep going.
So really, the only time she feels comfortable exploring her sexuality with Kay is when they're either out in the middle of nowhere, and really only it's when they drive out to be by a lake in the middle of nowhere, when they're out out by the ranch, and when they're in a hotel room together. And every other time when they're out in public, you can see her like pulling away, hiding her identity more. So, yeah.
And the hotel room speaks to that even more because not only is Vivian removed from her city, now she's truly private in the hotel room. And near the water often symbolizes change and discovery in films, but in this, it's also a lake, it's not an ocean. Oftentimes when we see an ocean, characters visit the ocean, it means death, change, rebirth. This is a lake, it's contained.
Yeah.
She can go there, but then what happens, it starts raining.
It's raining.
The lake breaks its containment.
Yeah.
And the water washes over her and baptizes her, and she becomes the new version of herself.
Yeah. And
especially in the desert,
yeah,
the rain is truly meaningful.
100%. Yeah. And not to like give too much away, but she, after it starts raining, retreats back into the car, and Kay, still in the rain, fully and completely, leans into the car to sort of try and welcome her into that world with their first kiss.
Kay is completely unbothered by the rain.
Yeah.
And it's when I said slice of life too, I think of like it feels like a classic country western romance novel, but it also feels like this American. It feels like an American indie story. It kind of feels like oh my god, I'm blanking on his name. Raymond Carver almost. It feels like a Raymond Carver story of this kind of melancholic but emotionally honest thing. But the difference is where Carver might go towards the and Carver's got great book of stories called What We Were Talking About When We Talk About Love. It reminded me of that, but it's going beyond that because it is also a kind of it becomes kind of a rose-tinted romance movie. And it really does become this like country western romance fairy tale with kind of an ambiguous but happy, I would say, conclusion.
I agree with that. The end, again, not to give anything away, but the conclusion of the film felt very classic Hollywood.
Yes, and it also feels like felt like what am I trying to say? Felt like Before Sunset to me as well. The ending of that, of this kind of like. Because if you give us too much of a resolution, you like take the magic out of the
moment,
the love. Yeah.
The ambiguity.
But I mean, there was a lot going on in this, from like the country western slow paced themes, but also there's some the surface level stuff about the way people around them interact. I love that Kay is out and unapologetically out the entire movie. I love that it's not really a for her, it's nothing to be hidden or ashamed of. And I love Vivian, like you put it, she really is it's her discovering, because she says she's leaving her marriage because you drown in still water, which is another water moment. But she very much frames it as like her relationship with her husband was a societal move. It was like a Bill and Hillary relationship where they got each other up to the echelons of society by being what they needed to be, by curating every part of their apartment. She even mentions the art that's on the walls is there to evoke the right impression from others. And so this is a woman, she's also, I think, supposed to be 35.
Yes.
And this implies that she probably married him when she was 18. And so this is also, not only is she afraid and terrified of the fact that she's attracted to women, but I think that she's also, I also think that even beyond, obviously it's a gay love story, but even beyond that, it's about being a woman in the 50s and the beginning of this movie takes place in 59. We are on the verge of the sexual revolution and the feminist revolution.
Which really comes to a head around like 67, 68, but still, like, the rumblings are there. Of course, revolutions take time.
I guess I'm just saying it's about to be the 60s.
But, yeah, it's about to be the 60s, but also it's interesting to think about, again, if we're thinking about different waves of feminism.
It's a weird noise from the
weird
cat.
Noise. It's like making like a tinkling bell noise, like a wham.
That was weird.
Wham.
Sorry, I don't know if that picked up.
It's interesting to think about this story that takes place in 1959 being told through the lens of a feminist filmmaker in 1985, in the year 2020.
So how old was she when she made it? Because like 85 to 59 is about is 26 years, and I'm trying to think like 26 years from today would have been 95. So like sometimes I think just because of our generation age and the fact that we came at the end of the 21st century, we often think like, oh, the 50s are olden times. But from 85, like it's only as old as the 95. It would be like us making a movie that was set in 1995 now.
For sure. I'm just talking about it in terms of the different waves of feminism.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's definitely
like
a lot more is moving.
Feminist movements in the 60s.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I would like to see you link that in too with like horror and all that. You got to write your book. Yeah, I thought this worked as like, it felt like a 200-page paperback.
Yeah.
To me, in the best possible way.
I agree.
Small setting, not a lot of movement, mostly about...
Pretty muted palette.
Except for the end when it gets into that neon beautiful.
Yeah.
That's when it starts to feel like it's made in the 80s.
That's true.
That's when you start to sense that modernity.
Yeah. Also, Zach Posen loves that word. Sorry.
Modernity?
Modernity.
That's a
I
good
feel
word.
like Zach Posen and Isaac Mizrahi, like a lot of designers are always like, the modernity. Anyway. That was a side note. Oh, the sex scene. I just want to point out the acting in that scene is really beautiful. Not only is that the whole scene, like, you know, obviously, I feel like, I don't know how mainstream this movie was at the time.
I mean, it's definitely, when I say indie, it definitely also feels like a progenitor of the American indie movement coming back in full swing in the 90s.
Yeah.
It feels like one of the first big independent films of the era. Like, it feels so much like so many, like, gas food lodging. I'm blanking.
Well, even like Ingrid Goes West, the poster I was saying, it seems like the poster for that was like directly referencing the poster for Desert Hurts.
Maybe.
Anyways, the point I was trying to make is that the acting in the sex scene is really beautiful because the woman playing...
I think Vivian. That's what I've been saying. I think I'm right.
I always forget character names so quickly. The woman playing Vivian is like quite literally trembling, and you can just see the awakening that's happening, but like the fear and but not. And then there's like a single tear. It's like just very beautifully acted.
Yeah, you can see her body language is incredibly, and really this actor's giving it so much the whole movie. There's always so much behind the surface. She's definitely like there's a rich inner life to this character, and I feel like that is the kind of the ethos of the whole, or the vibe, maybe I want to say, of the whole movie, is that there is a rich inner life. Everything is, I mean, it takes place in Reno, in rural Reno, outside of the city. Everything, even the Keno halls and slot machine halls, everything is shot at a horizontal track. Everyone looks like a normal person. The dialogue, people aren't saying it. There's no character who shows up as like a philosophical sage. Mm-hmm. It's all slice of American. It's Americana. It is Americana. It feels so much like an ode to a forgotten... I mean, there's Elvis on the soundtrack with this kind of like early Vegas energy. Mm-hmm. It's all very much like Americana, everyday working class people. But just as the main character has so much going on behind her eyes, every frame of this movie has... every character in it is reverberating with their own hidden struggle. Mm-hmm. And it really does, like, they say that everybody has a private war they're fighting you're not seeing. And it very much felt like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it feels like an important American film, is that it really, more than the genre movies of the 80s, it especially compared to the genre movies of its age. Think about what was Back to the Future came out this year. Mm-hmm. Especially compared to those big sci-fi epics. This movie is less concerned with the trappings of an American commercial life of Coca-Cola and skateboards and rock music, and more concerned with the what are the thoughts going through your head as you mow your lawn. Mm-hmm. And I really feel like there's a lot here. The only thing I'm going to shade this movie for a little bit is its Star Warsian use of wipes, but it was honestly very funny.
Let's get real. Not just the Star Warsian weird wipes. There are also some like awkwardly slow fade outs where it's almost like the person is editing is it's just not smooth. Where they're like, oh, hold up, oh, we're fading out. Oh,
do you think maybe?
Not yet. Oh,
almost there.
You can barely see them. 2 more seconds, and we faded out.
There is a line at the end of the movie where the main character, Vivian, says, I don't have a single clear memory except arriving. The rest is a blur. Mm-hmm. And so maybe those filmic techniques are, to a certain extent, meant to be an impressionist. Yeah, look.
Yeah.
Anyway, very much recommend this. It's in the Criterion Collection, so...
we watched it on HBO.
HBO, which has all the Criterion, most of the Criterion rights, so HBO or Criterion Channel.
You can rent it on Amazon for $3.99.
That's
I
right.
believe.
No, you're right. But in standard def.
Yeah. Well.
Or you can get it on Blu-ray from Criterion. This July, coming up really soon, in just a week, it's going to be the Criterion sale. you know that I'm going to have...
Christmas in July. Ooh,
Christmas in July, you know that I might put this on the short list. I gave myself $100 budget, if you're okay with that. I guess we're sharing finances now. It's getting real.
Oh, boy.
But I wanted to do a $100 budget on Criterion. And I think this might be one of the discs that I pick up. Because this movie was fantastic. Very, very, very recommended. And I don't know. I feel like I said what I thought.
Yeah. I feel like we pretty well covered it.
Yeah. Double feature ideas. I actually had some for this. Brokeback Mountain. If you want to switch it.
That.
If you want to gender swap it and make it sad
I was
instead
about
of
to say,
hopeful.
it depends on if you want to end on sad.
Finish. Let's just 1 second.
Yeah.
My Own Private Idaho. It very much feels like it feels like a prototype for that '90s country meandering. My Own Private Idaho. Other Gus Van Sant. And I wrote down a few other. And then Bay of Angels, which is a Jacques Demy movie about love in a casino. It's set in Nice. Just because there's a lot of casino stuff going on in this one too.
Sounds fun.
It's fun. It's sad. It's about gambling addiction and love.
Also, if you do end up watching this movie, quick shout out to Kay's shiny white cowgirl jumpsuit, the red belt, the red boots, and the red fringe. Woo.
Mm-hmm. And if you are our friend, if you're by any chance our friend Ariel Leggett from Austin, you could play Kay. No problem. I don't know who this actor is or what else she went on to do, but I was like spitting image.
I googled her.
Yeah, you did?
Oh yeah.
What else has she done?
Oh, she's...
I think maybe it was also her haircut too.
Yeah.
But like she looks a lot like a friend of ours.
Yeah, she's got that big layered bob.
Yeah.
Bouncy, hot curlers.
Hot curlers. Well, cool. What should be our next movie club pick, gang?
Yeah, let's get into it.
We're still hanging with the crew here. Not sure who's still hanging, but look, we got one more week in Pride Month.
Mm-hmm.
So let's really quickly recap. We watched Hedwig and the Angry Inch, week 1.
Mm-hmm.
We watched The Skin I Live In, week 2. We watched, and those movies both very much play with similar themes of the Frankenstein character, gender as a construct, and queerness as a lived force. I don't know if I'm saying exactly what I mean to there. Those movies feel very similar. This was a nice break. This was slower, quieter. It focused on women exclusively. So how do we want to end the month? Should we try and watch... And we talked about a few things like Watermelon Woman and stuff, but we watched those independently. So do we want to go full-on queer horror or something like Nightmare 2? Do we want to get into some camp with John Waters? Do we want to find another, like, maybe more, I don't know, seminal piece of queer filmmaking that maybe if we're getting, we could always do Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which we've had as a staff pick, but not a movie club pick. Really, you know me, I like treating every month that we do a theme as like a syllabus and rounding it out with a little representation of different forms of the theme, variations on the theme.
Yeah, so we had like our sort of like glam musical with a deeper meaning. We had our like gender...
I guess they kind of did queer horror with Skin.
Like, and then we had Desert Hearts. Okay, so yeah, I'm trying to think of
my staff pick, by the way. I already know what it's gonna be.
What's that?
It's one that's not often thought of as a queer movie, but Dog Day Afternoon. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Dog Day Afternoon is Al Pacino plays a bank robber who the bank gets surrounded by cops pretty quickly, and it's a standoff movie, and it's all about a very hot afternoon, and he's robbing a bank to pay for his partner's gender reassignment surgery. It's Sidney Lumet from the 70s. It's kind of an epic. It's one of my favorite movies.
Wow. Okay.
If it ends up being a movie club, then we can always... I didn't have to make it my staff pick, but if not, that's my staff pick. The favorite, I did not realize, Paris is Burning also. The Queen is one we've been talking about wanting to watch for a while. That's a doc.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
So, okay, so we're talking about, we could do a documentary, we could do a horror, a drama. My nose making a weird noise.
We've hit a few of these up so far.
We have.
I love Happy Together so much.
Yeah.
It's hard to find though.
Yeah. I think we ran into that last month.
We did. Boys Don't Cry I've actually never seen.
I haven't either.
Really? It was a big one from the night. It's another example of like a drama when I wasn't at the right age for it.
Yeah.
I'm just just to let you know, gentle viewer, I'm clicking through a list of celebrated queer movies just to try and spark my mind. But really, I could go in several different directions. Holden Book says he's feeling horror, but he also is disclaiming routinely fail to watch it, so don't listen. But that's okay. Boys Don't Cry is a damn good movie, but a rough watch. I know there is some really intense assault depictions in that movie. I also know that it's rated NC-17, not because of the assault, but because of a close-up on a woman's face during an orgasm. Really good documentary called This Film Is Not Yet Rated on that. Down for anything. Would love to do Polyester, which we talked about last week.
John Waters.
Yes, and which we have right here. And Great Job Nerds got me this, I think, for birthday or Christmas. And it comes with the Odorama Scratch and Sniff card, which we are going to scratch and sniff as we watch the movie. So Polyester is definitely, let's put that on the voting block. Let's take Boys Don't Cry off. I would rather not end in a movie that's explicitly about trauma.
Yeah. Okay, so I'd say if we're getting a short list going here, maybe we could say Polyester. We could say Freddy 2.
Freddy 2 is just so good, and it's so deeply gay in a way that it's like, how did this escape everybody? There's a documentary on it too. We could kind of like encourage people to watch. It's called Scream, Queen. Scream Queen.
Fun.
And
I looked really annoyed with you because I like spiked the camera and went fun, but I really meant that.
You gymmed the camera.
That was a genuine like, oh, that sounds fun.
You gymmed it. Well, I think we have. Okay, you keep listing here because you had some. And I'm gonna open up the tab I closed. Excuse me. 14 of the saddest movies on Netflix. No, thank you.
No.
I'm not 14. I used to straight up though. I internet searched for tear jerkers when I was 13 because I loved movies that made me cry.
The Kids Are All Right is one I've been wanting to rewatch.
Brokeback Mountain's one I've been wanting to rewatch.
Same.
It just feels way too. Does it feel a little cliche or like too on the nose to pick that as our movie club pick? I don't know why.
I mean, I don't think so.
God, that movie's beautiful.
Yeah.
That song from it too wrecks me.
Oh, me too. Oh boy.
Don't
even.
Okay.
Don't do it.
I'm trying to go back on here. I'm almost there, y'all. Because there was a few on this list. There were a few on this list that I was like, Nito Bobito.
Oh. Okay.
I said Nito Bobito.
Oh, the Queen. We had talked about the Queen.
The Queen. That might be harder to find. I know Kino put that out. No, it's on Netflix.
Streaming on Netflix. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Carol's always an option. I still have not seen Carol. Okay. Well, Steph, let's drop a few, and you tell me what you think as I add them. I'm no longer going to be able to see the chat as I start this poll, so bear with me. Final movie for Queer Cinema Month. Pride Month.
Cool.
Okay, so we have Polyester. We have
Freddy 2 with Scream, Queen as an optional companion piece. We you could say something like Portrait or Moonlight.
Great films. On Fur. Zelda, let me character limit. Portrait of a Lady on Fur. It's a Christmas movie. Get it? It's a fir tree.
Yeah. That's good.
Coniferous. Maybe one other queer horror movie. Okay, here, we're looking through this. What was the one that I mentioned that I was like, oh, I never think of that as a...
Dog Day Afternoon?
Yes. God, I love that movie. Sidney Lumet is incredible. God, I want to watch this movie called Thunderstruck, you guys. It's a 3-hour experimental gay porn from the 70s. That's been like on my list, but you can't stream it. You have to buy it for $30 on Amazon, and that has just been a little too much for my blood lately. Pain and Glory is really good. That's an Almodovar. That's newer. It's interesting that Cruising is on here. Cruising often... Cruising is very interesting. Cruising is William Friedkin, who did The Exorcist and Sorcerer and a bunch of other French Connection. And it's Al Pacino going undercover into the gay S&M leather bar world to catch a serial killer. Very controversial when it came out, very protested by gay groups who did not want to be associated with the BDSM leather community or have that represent them. Really tumultuous backstory and history on this to this day. I think it's a fascinating movie, but I also like respect people who are like, fuck that movie. All right. Let's look up queer horror real quick just to see if we find any, just see if anything pops out that we're like, oh shit. Jennifer's Body I've been wanting to rewatch. Interesting. Spiral is listed on here.
Oh.
Sleepaway Camp. That's another one that's like, okay, kind of, but also Daughters of Darkness, which is that vampire film. Vampiros Lesbos, which I don't know what that's about. Joking. Carrie, interesting.
That's what I was just thinking.
The Haunting. Now, The Haunting is fantastic. 1963, Robert Wise. That's kind of a, is this a ghost or is this mental illness sort of movie? And it does center a queer female main character.
Interesting.
Cat People is a classic. Diabolique is so good. Have you ever seen Diabolique or Les Diaboliques? Interesting. And then Black Swan. All right, y'all. Well, what are you feeling? Any of these jumping out at you? I've had a few picks.
I think it's fine. I think we have a pretty good list. If you want to just throw an extra one on there for good measure.
Done.
There you go. Perfect.
And I'm adding Bound to the list, which is the Wachowski's first movie, explicitly a lesbian love story, also a crime thriller, also the low-budget movie the Wachowskis made to prove to Warner Brothers they should get the money to make The Matrix.
And if you're just joining us, it's nearing the end of our stream. We're in the third and final segment, we just finished the third and final segment, which is our movie club discussion. And now we're moving on to picking our movie club for next week as well.
As well as us, that means.
I'm just trying to back you up in a stupid way. Sorry.
No, I like it.
I'm so overcaffeinated.
So it is the last week of June, or coming up the last Tuesday of June. And so we've been exploring queer cinema all month in honor of Pride Month. We're picking our last pick for June. So hop on in there if you've got an opinion.
Got an opinion? Make it heard. We got Polyester, John Waters' spoof on romantic melodramas featuring the legend Divine. We've got Nightmare on Elm Street 2, the probably the most famous of the horror movies with gay subtext. Also, really a fascinating movie in its own right because it doesn't act like any other movie in the franchise does. And you can absolutely see, like, Nightmare on Elm Street's this massive financial success, and they follow it up with this very kind of experimental take. And then almost immediately in number 3, they're like, never mind, forget about that. Here's 4 more movies that are like the first one. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is a masterpiece.
Oh.
Do you agree with me, though?
Yes. I'm sure everyone who's still here knows that that is one of my favorite movies in recent history. 100%. If you haven't seen it, even if it's not our pick, please watch it.
You should watch it. Dog Day Afternoon. One of the great 70s Al Pacino dramas. Honestly, Dog Day Afternoon and Justice for All and Serpico are, I mean, not even mentioning The Godfather. This is like part of Al Pacino's God tier 70s run. And Bound, the Wachowski first movie.
And thank you, Holden Wook. Yes, the poll is above the chat. If you have not voted, I think we have like maybe a minute left on there. I can't really tell.
Go ahead and you can, right at the top of the chat, thank you, Holden Wook, there's a little arrow you can click that will drop down that poll so you can vote. And we will go with what y'all tell us to go with. Stephanie, do you have a vote you want me to throw in? Yeah, thank you. Only 2 people have voted.
You know, I think I'm just going to hang back and let this unfold.
All right, cool. Well, we're not going to vote.
If you want to vote, by all means, I won't look.
Yeah, you know, these all sound great, and to be real, I've seen Bound about 1 million times, so I probably won't watch that. And Portrait of a Lady on Fire we watched last year, so I probably won't watch that. But it's very likely that I will watch Dog Day Afternoon, Nightmare, and Polyester within the next week. So I'm impartial which one we talk about.
There you go.
Really, whatever y'all are feeling.
Well, while we wait for the poll to round out, do you want to do our staff picks for the week?
Yes, my staff pick doesn't look like it's going to win, so my staff pick will be Dog Day Afternoon.
Awesome. And I said that without really knowing what my staff pick was going to be.
You thought I was going to take more time.
With such confidence.
You thought I was going to be like, I don't know. Let me kill time for you. No, you know what? We'll come back to Dog Day Afternoon. My staff pick is Xanadu.
I love it.
Bing, 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 bing.
Let's see.
Now you are here.
Okay, you know what my staff pick is going to be? This is similar to Xanadu. I would say it's not an explicitly queer movie, but has very like fun, gay, queer energy. My staff pick is going to be Best in Show.
Love it. Love to see it. And movie club pick, y'all got like 30 more seconds to vote here. And it looks like it's going to be Freddy 2. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to be unless we get 3 votes out of the blue here. So, boom, let's call it.
A great way to round out the month. And I don't know about you, but I'm sure Adam is on board with this. I 100% do want to watch Scream, Queen, the companion documentary piece to the film.
Which I believe is on Shudder.
Nice.
So is Stephanie's movie.
So is my movie.
Scare Package.
Well, it's not my movie. I'm in the movie. It's not my movie.
But you helped.
By acting in a small part of it.
You made it.
And there were effects. A lot of fake blood. Hard. Did it.
You did it. Is it just our screen, or are we super fuzzy right now?
I think maybe it's just our screen. But, you know, the animals around this time do tend to sort of knock the camera.
I'm throwing a paper airplane at you, Stephanie.
Oh my god.
I got you right in the noggin.
You are flirting.
I am a little flirty right now. All right, y'all. This is the pick. Here, let's see if I can... do I look like I'm Freddy?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay, not HD, but nothing fuzzy. Yeah, it's just a regular webcam. It's supposed to be an HD webcam for streaming. Okay, it's probably our terrible lighting more than anything. Anyway, this is going to be a really fun pick, y'all.
I agree.
Just remember when you watch it to... now, I remember watching this in high school, And, okay, this is Holdenwook. I want to say this before we all hop off. Holdenwook and I share a mutual love/obsession with The Neverending Story. The theme song to The Neverending Story is performed by an artist named Lamal. And Lamal was notably out as a performer, a gay pop icon in the 80s. So I knew Lamal, but had only ever heard of him through the context of Neverending Story. Until I watched this. And I noticed that the main character's room had a few Lamal posters on the wall. Along with Pet Shop Boys, I think, and George Michael. And I was like, wait, why are all of his favorite bands all gay bands? And I was like, why is he going to an S&M leather bar? Why is Freddie whipping a guy in the shower naked? This movie feels like it's about something other than Frederick Krueger.
Frederick Krueger.
Anyway, watch it with the lens of this is a movie about a kid struggling to come out, and you'll be vastly rewarded.
Turn around, look what you see.
Turn around, look at what you see in the stream. We're ending right at 7:13. Lies that keep their secrets.
Okay, that's enough.
Okay, thank you. She knows when to stop me. Well, guys, it's been another fantastic week here. Thanks for sticking around. If you're new this week, we noticed the numbers were a little higher than the folks in the chat. So if you were lurking and just enjoying the show, thanks. Definitely please come back. And always feel free to hop in the chat. To our regulars who swung by, Munson, Holdenwook, Pathos, and Wedge, and Great Job Nerds, thank you all for coming through tonight.
As always. It's a pleasure. If you would like to follow me on social media, on Instagram, I am at Flock of Schmeagles.
I'm at Protextor, and you can follow the show at You Are in a Video Store, or on Twitter at You Are in a Video. That's a brand new Twitter account, so it's pretty it's a sad Twitter account right now, but we'll hopefully get it there. It's more just there to be there. And again, new Letterboxd. If you want to follow up with the staff picks and stuff, I'm going to be adding those to our Letterboxd lists. Feel free to check out the back catalog. Also, I started a new list tonight. That is things you've recommended to us. So that's on there as well. We'll follow back. I do not need to look cool and have X amount of followers on Letterboxd. I will follow every one of you back if you use that. All right. Well, lies that keep their secrets will unfold behind the clouds, and there, behind the rainbow, is the answer to Neverending Story. I probably got the lyrics wrong.
I think you did.
All right, y'all. Anything else we have to say?
I feel great.
I feel great too. Let's take a walk outside.
Okay.
It's like a nice walking weather. Take the dog out.
It's almost magic hour.
And it's almost magic hour. We should film something. Have a good night, everybody, and let's just say it one more time. Get home safe.
Be kind, rewind.
Black Lives Matter. Take care of each other. Watch more movies. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video. From Rubens to Mamoulian, Cooper to Leone, Kobushi and Suzuki. These movies take you to New Orleans. We recommend it. Never pretentious. It's never ending. Just where our head is. It's one Kauai, Slaughterhouse 5. Those Hollywood nights are Hong Kong on fire. I could watch it all night, but stop and rewind. Watch it again, you strapped in, ain't no stopping the ride. That's Ginger Rogers the time. Swing down to Broadway and lights. Ishii, Miike, Tarkovsky, Almodovar, Von Sternberg, Dietrich, Garbo, Garfield, Heathcliff, with Transformers over on the 80s TV show. You need a hand, we can reach it. Move in silence like Bernal Melly is Mishu. Spending afternoons with Maya, then watch Freddy Got Fingered. It's all love for that silver screen, baby, what that TV do. And we here every week too, so don't you touch that dial, bruh. We ain't skipping the previews. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. I said you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video. You are in a video. You are in a rental shop. Welcome to the 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 rental shop.